Li Mei's Sword of Destiny. Chapter 903. The appearance of a ranker in the top 10 of the Immortal Ascension rankings would naturally cause a commotion. Everyone would instantly notice them. In addition, Xiao Lingyue was not only a ranker in the top 10, she was also a supreme beauty. However, no one dared to strike up a conversation with her. Just the young men beside Xiao Lingyue alone were all rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings, and their rankings were higher than Ji Lanshan. This Ji Lanshan actually dares to establish his own sect? He's simply courting humiliation. At this moment a young man spoke, his tone filled with disdain for the God Extermination Palace. Although his words were ear-piercing, the truth was that the God Extermination Palace only had one ranker, Ji Lanshan. In front of a power like the Xiao sect there was simply no way they could compare. However, this fellow's formations aren't weak at all. He's actually only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon. A person stared at Qin Wentian with interest. Lingyue, are you interested in this man? The young man beside Xiao Lingyue asked. Xiao Lingyue's countenance was calm. There were no fluctuations in her beautiful eyes. She quietly stared at the battle before her as she replied, "Let's watch first." The few of them nodded and accompanied Xiao Lingyue to watch the battle. The battle continued unceasingly. Qin Wentian grew more and more ferocious as he fought, not showing any signs of weakness at all. The might of his formations towered up into the sky, and on the other hand, other than Ji Lanshan who could defend against the attacks of the formations, the other experts from the God Extermination Palace were all struggling. If this continued, they still wouldn't be able to take down Qin Wentian. Ji Lanshan, that's enough. At this moment, a young man beside Xiao Lingyue crossed his arms in front of his chest as he spoke. A moment later Ji Lanshan retreated, ceasing the battle. The experts from the God Extermination Palace also retreated. Qin Wentian also didn't continue and the violent battle abruptly ceased. Ji Lanshan turned his gaze to Xiao Lingyue and the others. His countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. This battle was truly too embarrassing. Not only did you fail to take down a newcomer, you even injured your own people. Ji Lanshan, if I were you, I wouldn't continue to stay here. The young man with his hands crossed in front of his chest said with a faint smile. His tone seemed to contain some mockery. Ji Lanshan's gaze was sharp as he stared at the person who spoke. What does it have to do with you? Of course it has nothing to do with me. I'm not the one who lost face. The man replied indifferently. Xiao Lingyue turned her gaze onto Ji Lanshan as she spoke. You guys can leave first. Ji Lanshan glanced at Xiao Lingyue. Although he was a ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, it was impossible for him to contend against Xiao Lingyue and her group. His eyes flashed with rage as he turned to Qin Wentian. I, Ji Lanshan, will remember the matters today. Are you intending to gather everyone from the God Exterminating Palace to deal with me? Qin Wentian coldly replied. Everyone could easily understand the sarcasm in his words. The God Extermination Palace had to mobilize all the experts in their sect to deal with a 7th level ascendant. Retreat. Ji Lanshan didn't have the face to stay here any longer. He gave the order to leave, and at that moment, the experts from the God Extermination Palace all left. A stray dog. The immature voice of Little Rascal rang out. Momentarily, the experts from the God Extermination Palace all had black lines on their faces. They wanted nothing more than to cook Little Rascal and eat him up. Qin Wentian's silhouette reverted back to his normal size. The robes he wore shimmered with astral light. This was the robes of a divine weapon and was extremely flexible. However, he still took out a long robe from his interspatial ring and donned it. After which, he turned his gaze to Xiao Lingyue. What a beautiful woman! Qin Wentian silently praised in his heart. This Xiao Lingyue was indeed a rare beauty. Although her perfect figure was extremely alluring, that demeanor she exuded made it so that no one dared to have any thoughts of blasphemy. Her eyes were extremely beautiful, and when she stared at Qin Wentian, it was as though her gaze could hook away the souls of people. Your proficiency in formations isn't bad, and your combat prowess should be very strong as well. It's just that your cultivation base is on the lower side. If it wasn't for your formations, I'm afraid you would be at a disadvantage against Ji Lanshan. Xiao Lingyue continued walking forward. Her steps were graceful, causing people to be mesmerized. Her eyes were fixed on Qin Wentian. She then spoke to Qin Wentian. If this is your first time in the city of ancient emperors, why don't you all join a power? My Xiao sect is sufficient to protect you. If you all join, Ji Lanshan wouldn't dare to harass you. Xiao Lingyue actually took the initiative to invite him. Seems like she values his capabilities. A look of bewilderment appeared on someone's face. It was extremely hard to reject an invitation from a beauty, right? Even I don't have such treatment. That young man with his arms crossed in front of his chest spoke in a low voice. Lingyue is interested in his formations? However, in the city of ancient emperors, strength is still the most important thing. Formations are just a minor Dao. A young man standing at the side spoke, his tone filled with coldness. Xiao sect. Qin Wentian recalled the information in the jade slip. The Xiao sect seemed to be a sect founded by the daughter of the Xiao emperor, Xiao Lingyue. The beauty before him should be none other than Xiao Lingyue, one of the three beauties. Before this, that young woman said that because Qing Er's ranking surpassed her, Xiao Lingyue had always wanted to fight with Qing Er to prove herself. Hence, Qin Wentian paid special attention to Xiao Lingyue's information. Such a breathtaking beauty was actually surpassed by Qing Er in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Seems like Qing Er was getting more and more outstanding. In the past, I was the one who delayed Qing Er's cultivation. Qin Wentian silently mused. When they were in the particle world, Qing Er had always been by his side, silently protecting him. Clearly, this had greatly delayed his own cultivation. The path of cultivation wasn't something that could be accomplished in a single step. One had to truly immerse themselves in it. Qing Er had an extremely rare physique, and there was also a mysterious and powerful energy in her body. Qin Wentian didn't find it strange at all that her performance was outstanding after arriving in the immortal realms. Before this, it was precisely because we rejected the God Extermination Palace that we were pursued by them. Zi Qingxian spoke. However, Xiao Lingyue didn't even look at her. Her beautiful eyes were still fixated on Qin Wentian, that young man who dared to look her in the eyes. From those eyes, Xiao Lingyue could actually see a hint of emotion. Although she felt some disdain in her heart, she was also secretly satisfied. There were many people who were conquered by her beauty, and this young man before her was merely one of them. Many geniuses were willing to follow her the moment they laid eyes on her. And because of this, her Xiao sect was ranked within the top 3 in the city of ancient emperors. Xiao Lingyue naturally wouldn't know that this hint of emotion wasn't because of her. It was because after looking at her, Qin Wentian was reminded of Qing Er. How is it? Xiao Lingyue confidently asked. A faint smile could be seen on her lips, further accentuating her charisma. For those who join a power in the city of ancient emperors, there shouldn't be any relationship after we leave the city, right? Qin Wentian asked. Qin Wentian's words caused many in the surroundings to laugh silently. Seems like this young man who just arrived here had no way to resist Xiao Lingyue's charm. Naturally, this is only limited to the city of ancient emperors. In fact, if you want to leave the Xiao sect within the city, you can do so at any time. After all, the city of ancient emperors is a training ground. You can do as you please. Xiao Lingyue spoke. MHM Qin Wentian nodded. After that, he turned to Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen as he transmitted his voice. Xiao Lingyue is searching for Qing. If I join the Xiao sect, I'll be able to find Qing Er at the first instant. I'll choose to join temporarily. What about you guys? I'll follow senior brother Qin. If you want to join, I'll join as well. Jun Mengchen replied. Zi Qingxian pondered for a moment. Her beautiful eyes turned to Qin Wentian as she sighed in her heart. Seems like Qin Wentian's feelings for Princess Qi Er were extremely deep. She also transmitted her voiceover. We're together. Thank you. A smile appeared in Qin Wentian's eyes. The three of them exchanged glances and smiled. After that, Qin Wentian turned to Xiao Lingyue and spoke. We're willing to join the Xiao sect. Seems like they still have no way to resist Xiao Lingyue's charm. But this is also normal. Xiao Lingyue took the initiative to invite them. To newcomers who just entered the city of ancient emperors, this is already a great honor. The spectators from afar started discussing. The experts from the Xiao sect all had different expressions on their faces. Welcome. Xiao Lingyue smiled at Qin Wentian. After that, she turned and spoke. Let's return to the Xiao sect first. You guys can introduce the Xiao sect to me. Senior brother, This Xiao Lingyue is extremely arrogant. She's one of the 3 most famous beauties in the city of ancient emperors. I finally met her. Jun Mingchen transmitted his voiceover. The 3 of them lifted their feet and followed after Xiao Lingyue. Right now, several experts from the Xiao sect were staring at them. That arrogant young man glanced at them and spoke. The Xiao sect doesn't accept mediocre people. If you guys are too weak, you will be expelled from the Xiao sect. After speaking, he turned and walked side by side with Xiao Lingyue. Lingyue, I really don't understand why you recruited the 3 of them so easily. There's no need for you to understand, Xiao Lingyue calmly replied, her words causing the arrogant young man to shake his head. What an arrogant fellow. Jun Mengchen coldly snorted as he stared at the back of that young man. His name is Xia Qianhan. He has always been like this. There's no need for you guys to mind him too much. That young man with his arms crossed in front of his chest laughed. Staring at Qin Wentian and the others, he continued, let me introduce myself. My name is Li Yu as in Jade. But clearly I'm a man. Haha, if I didn't see you I would really think that's a woman's name. Jun Mengchen laughed. Number 81 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Li Yu. Qin Wentian mumbled, his eyes flashing with sharpness. Xia Qianhan, number 96 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Your memory isn't bad. Li Yu laughed. However, Xia Qianhan's words aren't wrong. The Xiao sect doesn't accept mediocre people. Although Xiao Lingyue is a woman, her judgment is extremely high. She wouldn't even be interested in ordinary characters. If your performance is too weak in the future, you guys would definitely be expelled from the Xiao sect. My performance is too weak? Would the Xiao sect fight against other powers? Qin Wentian asked. That's very rare. After all, the Xiao sect is one of the top 3 powers in the city of ancient emperors. Ordinary powers wouldn't dare to antagonize them. However, I'm sure you guys don't know that the outskirts of the city of ancient emperors are filled with secret realms and treasures. There are even legendary treasures left behind by ancient emperors. Chapter 904. The Xiao sect was one of the top 3 powers in the city of ancient emperors. They had hundreds of geniuses and a large number of buildings. Behind them were green mountains and in front of them was a flowing river. It was like a small city with mountains on one side and rivers on the other. Within the Xiao sect, the air was fresh and tranquil. Qin Wentian had already been here for several days, but he wasn't too familiar with the people here. There was also no one to introduce him to. Xiao Lingyue had always been searching for Qing Air. The power of the Xiao sect was so great that it was much easier compared to him searching alone. And once Xiao Lingyue found Qing Air, he would naturally be the first to receive the news. And to Qin Wentian, any place was a good place for him to cultivate. It was the same in the Xiao sect as well. In a quiet ancient courtyard under the green mountains, Qin Wentian sat cross-legged in a cultivation ground. The space around him was illusory, as though there were countless constellations in the sky. In Qin Wentian's palms, a gigantic rune bone could be seen. This rune bone shone with boundless runic light, and the runic patterns on it were extremely mysterious. In this space, the shadow of an incomparably gigantic wind rock appeared. This shadow enveloped Qin Wentian, and although there was no wind blowing in, there was still the feeling of a raging wind howling. Qin Wentian closed his eyes in cultivation. Boundless runic inscriptions appeared on his body, causing the space around him to be illusory. He was currently circulating the Myriad Laws record. During the cultivation process of the Myriad Laws record, a miraculous space would be created, suitable for the myriad of laws. The higher one's comprehension, the more they would be able to see. The space around him expanded unceasingly as boundless runic inscriptions flashed. The rune bone in Qin Wentian's hand floated in the air, glowing brightly. Momentarily, the runic inscriptions on the rune bone leaped out, transforming into numerous wind rocks. It was as though there was a supreme wind rock movement technique appearing in this space, imprinting itself into Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. Not only that, the runes within the wind rock rune bone flowed out, transforming into a peerless attack that possessed boundless might. On the surface of the small rune bone, there seemed to be countless mysterious runes engraved on it. Each rune contained a powerful might, causing people to feel the supreme might of the wind rock that once ruled over the void. Qin Wentian immersed himself within, comprehending the power within. Borrowing the 10,000 laws record, he merged his own power within, making it his own. After a period of time, the sound of footsteps drifted over from outside the courtyard. Zi Qingxian stood outside and saw that the person who came was none other than the Xiao sect leader, Xiao Lengyue, as well as several other experts of the Xiao sect. Where is Qin Wentian? Xia Qianhan, who was beside Xiao Lengyue, asked Zi Qingxian. Zi Qingxian furrowed her brows as she replied. He's cultivating. Call him over. Lengyue is looking for him. Xia Qianhan spoke, his words causing Zi Qingxian to feel extremely unhappy in her heart. This Xia Qianhan really treated them like subordinates. There was no respect in his tone at all. He's cultivating. Zi Qingxian repeated. Xia Qianhan's brows twitched as he glanced at Zi Qingxian. Since you've joined the Xiao sect, you should know your own position. Zi Qingxuan's frown deepened. They only joined the Xiao sect because they were invited by Xiao Lengyue. They didn't beg to join. In addition, even without the protection of the Xiao sect, Qin Wentian himself was able to defeat Ji Lanshan. This Xia Qianhan of the Immortal Ascension rankings was truly arrogant. Xia Qianhan, don't scare other beauties. No matter what, they are all members of our Xiao sect. Li Yu laughed. Although they were both rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Li Yu's personality was much gentler. What's the matter? At this moment, Qin Wentian and Jun Mingchen walked out together. Xiao Lengyue smiled at Qin Wentian. I have something to discuss with you. Is it convenient for us to enter? Sure. Qin Wentian nodded. You guys wait here for me. Xiao Lengyue walked forward, entering the courtyard together with Qin Wentian. Xia Qianhan furrowed his brows as a look of unhappiness flashed in his eyes. Xiao Lengyue and Qin Wentian came to the cultivation grounds together. Xiao Lengyue took out a scroll and passed it to Qin Wentian. Take a look at these diagrams. Qin Wentian received it. On this diagram, there was a resplendent palace that exuded an incomparable majesty. In front of the palace, there was a passageway filled with thistles and thorns. There was also an ancient pathway that was engraved with many complicated runic inscriptions, incomparably marvelous. What is this? Qin Wentian asked. These runic inscriptions were extremely profound and were all extremely powerful divine inscriptions, capable of countless transformations. Even the slightest mistake could result in destruction. The city of ancient emperors is the ruins of an ancient emperor. The city of ancient emperors is the ruins of an ancient emperor. This isn't a rumor, it's the truth. This palace might very well be the emperor palace of an ancient emperor. Initially, it was hidden in the darkness, unable to see the light of day. However, after many generations of exploration, many people paid the price of their lives. Up until now, the ruins of this emperor palace can already be seen with the naked eye. It's just that up until now no one has been able to enter it. These divine inscriptions are the greatest obstruction. Xiao Lengyue explained. Qin Wentian laughed. He wasn't a fool. He instantly knew the reason why Xiao Lengyue invited him to join the Xiao sect. However, he also had his own reasons for joining the Xiao sect, so it wasn't a big deal. If he had no value, why would Xiao Lengyue invite him to join the Xiao sect? Just from the diagrams, these divine inscriptions are extremely complicated. But if one doesn't personally experience it, it's impossible to know if they can be unraveled. Qin Wentian straightforwardly spoke. Okay, let's head there directly then. Xiao Lengyue spoke, her beautiful eyes gleaming with sharpness, exuding a heroic aura. If not, as a female, it would be hard for her to have such accomplishments. The number 6 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings wasn't a position anyone could ascend to. Sure. Qin Wentian nodded. Xiao Lengyue smiled sweetly at Qin Wentian. Your attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions are extremely high. If you can do it, I, Xiao Lengyue, will definitely not mistreat you. Xiao Lengyue's smile grew even more radiant. She turned and spoke, let's move out. However, there are many experts there, including many rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Our greatest opponents are those from the Twin Stars Alliance. Their alliance leaders are 2 brothers, and both of them are ranked at the top of the Immortal Ascension rankings. The elder brother is ranked number 4, while the younger brother has extraordinary attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. Xiao Lengyue turned and walked out, yet her fragrance still lingered in the air. Qin Wentian smiled lightly. This Xiao Lingyue's charm was truly unrivaled. Every action of hers was filled with an indescribable charm. She only needed to act a little more intimate with you, and she would be able to create a bewitching charm that mesmerized people. Following Xiao Lingyue out of the courtyard, Qin Wentian could clearly sense the unfriendly gazes of several people staring at him. However, he didn't mind it. He spoke to Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian. "Help me look after little rascal." "Don't need me?" Jun Mengchen asked. "No need." Qin Wentian shook his head. Even Xiao Lingyue personally went to the ruins of the Emperor Palace. Given the current strength of Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian, it was still insufficient. There would definitely be experts as common as clouds there. "Let's move out," Xiao Lingyue spoke. With a single step, the group of them soared up into the air. Xiao Lingyue was clad in luxurious red robes, exuding a sense of nobility and elegance. Their speed was extremely fast as they sped towards their destination. To the north of the city of ancient emperors, there was an ice field that seemed to be a boundless world of glaciers. The air here was filled with an incomparably mystical energy, making it impossible to fly in the air. In this world of glaciers, there was a snow-white emperor palace, pure and untainted by even a speck of dust. However, it gave off a faintly discernible aura. Before the emperor palace, there was an ancient pathway that exuded an ancient aura. It was as though this pathway was forcefully opened up by the later generations. Only after generations of hard work did they manage to see the ruins of the Emperor Palace. Over here there were many experts gathered here. From afar, a whistling sound drifted over. These experts all inclined their heads, only to see the silhouette of a beautiful maiden. Xiao Lingyue is here. Many people recognized Xiao Lingyue with a single glance. Since she brought experts from the Xiao sect here, it seemed like she was extremely interested in this Emperor Palace. "Xiao Lingyue." A young man inclined his head and stared at Xiao Lingyue as he laughed. "Why haven't you given up yet? I've said it before, if you marry me or my elder brother, we will bring you into the Emperor Palace. You can just sit there and enjoy the fruits of our labor." "Xianxing, how dare you?" Xia Qianhan coldly berated. "Xia Qianhan, you don't have the qualifications to speak to me." The young man turned his gaze to Xia Qianhan as he continued. "Xiao Lingyue, you are the daughter of the Xiao Emperor, while my father is the Xian Emperor. You can be said to be a perfect match for each other. The Twin Stars Alliance my elder brother and I established can also suppress your Xiao sect. If you don't like me, you can marry my elder brother." In the city of ancient emperors, very few people dared to antagonize Xiao Lingyue, who was ranked number 6 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. However, the two alliance leaders of the Twin Stars Alliance were undoubtedly an exception. The two alliance leaders of the Twin Stars Alliance were known as the Twin Prides. They were the sons of the Xian Emperor. Xianyang was extremely powerful, ranked number 4 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Xianxing's attainments in divine inscriptions were extremely high as well, ranked number 27 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. These two brothers could be said to be dragons among men. In the city of ancient emperors, the strength of the Twin Stars Alliance was on par with the Xiao sect. There were often conflicts between the two. The alliance leader of the Twin Stars Alliance, Xianxing, would often joke about Xiao Lingyue, saying that he wanted her to become the daughter-in-law of his father, the Xian Emperor. "You..." Xia Qianhan turned ashen. However, Xiao Lingyue waved her hands and smiled at Xianxing. "Xianxing, you can't even defeat me. What qualifications do you have to marry me? This is only temporary. I can't defeat you, but Xianyang can. I have no objections to you marrying him." Xianxing laughed. "Humph, Xianxing, you can be arrogant after you enter the Emperor Palace." Xiao Lingyue coldly laughed. After which, she turned to Qin Wentian. "Qin Wentian, take a look at the runic diagram below. Can you break it?" Qin Wentian's gaze had already landed on the ancient pathway ahead. The runic diagram here was incomparably profound, and he actually had no way to break it in a short period of time. He couldn't help but to furrow his brows as he immersed his consciousness into it. "Haha, so it turns out that you've invited a helper over. But with just him? In the city of ancient emperors, if I can't break the divine inscriptions, no one else can. If there's someone who can enter the Emperor Palace, it will definitely be me." Xianxing spoke arrogantly, incomparably brazen. Chapter 905. Xiao Lingyue stared at the arrogant expression on Xianxing's face. In this place, not only was Xianxing proficient in divine inscriptions, there were a few other geniuses who also had extremely high attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions. However, none of them could be compared to Xianxing Xianyang, and Xianxing's father was the Xian Emperor whose name shook the immortal realms. Not only was he at the immortal emperor realm, his attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were extremely high as well. Xianyang had never dabbled in divine inscriptions. He was only interested in strength. Xianxing was different. He inherited the Xian Emperor's talent in the Tao of divine inscriptions, and was much stronger compared to those of the older generations. Qin Wentian acted as though he didn't hear Xianxing's words. His gaze was fixated on the ancient pathway leading to the misty Emperor Palace. The diagrams were too profound, incomparably exquisite, and could be said to have reached the peak of perfection. He could clearly decipher one of the diagrams, but once he broke it, he would instantly trigger a destructive might. Behind each divine inscription diagram, there seemed to be countless traps waiting for you to fall into. For those with low attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions, if they were to carelessly step in, they would definitely end up in a miserable state. "I can't break it." Qin Wentian suddenly spoke. Xiao Lingyue's expression froze. She turned her head and stared at Qin Wentian. After a moment of silence, she solemnly spoke. "Take a closer look. No one in the city of ancient emperors can break this divine inscription." Qin Wentian decisively spoke, causing a strange expression to appear on Xiao Lingyue's face. The arrogance of this fellow in front of her didn't lose out to Xianxing at all. "Stop boasting. You can't break it, but that doesn't mean others can't." Xianxing couldn't help but to laugh coldly when he saw how arrogant Qin Wentian was. "Since you are so strong, why don't you break it for me to see?" Qin Wentian stared at Xianxing as he replied, causing Xianxing to swallow back his words. Xianxing's eyes flashed. He surveyed Qin Wentian as he coldly laughed. "Do you know who you are talking to? Or should I say, do you think that just because Xiao Lingyue invited you here, you have enough confidence to speak to me in this manner? Who you are has nothing to do with me. I will speak the same way as you." Qin Wentian's countenance turned sharp as he replied. "Very good." Xianxing stepped out as divine inscriptions manifested on the ground. Xiao Lingyue frowned and stepped out, blocking in front of Qin Wentian. She stared at Xianxing. "Xianxing, what do you want to do? Hiding behind a woman?" Xianxing sneered as he glanced at Qin Wentian. After which, he flicked his sleeves and turned around to continue observing the path towards the monarch palace. Xiao Lingyue's countenance was no longer as good as before. She frowned as she stared ahead, as though in contemplation. At this moment, Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice beside her. "Since there's an emperor palace, there's definitely a way to enter it. It's just that from what I can see, no one would be able to unravel the diagram. If we want to enter, we have to step into it and allow ourselves to sink into it. At that time, there would definitely be a huge transformation on this ancient pathway." Xiao Lingyue turned, her beautiful eyes staring at Qin Wentian. "Are you sure? Before this, there should have been people who tried it before." Qin Wentian replied. Xiao Lingyue stared into Qin Wentian's eyes as she nodded. "Indeed. Before this, those who tried to force their way in would all sink into it due to the transformation of the ancient pathway. It's unknown whether they're dead or alive. From this point, your conjecture isn't wrong. Lingyue, don't trust this man so easily. He's just a 7th level ascendant. His life and death isn't important. But if you encounter danger, the consequences would be unimaginable." Xia Qianhan reminded Xiao Lingyue. Qin Wentian's words were extremely risky. "Since you don't dare to take the risk, why don't you just return directly? Why do you still want to enter the Emperor Palace? Could it be that there won't be any danger after entering?" Qin Wentian mocked. Xia Qianhan narrowed her eyes, staring at Qin Wentian. "Pay attention to your tone. If you don't need me, I can leave right now." Qin Wentian stared at Xiao Lingyue. This Xia Qianhan had never given him any face before, and he couldn't be bothered with her. Qin Wentian knew his own limitations. Xiao Lingyue was a supreme beauty, and was also the daughter of the Xiao Emperor. It was impossible for her to take a fancy to him. Before this, she only invited him to join the Xiao sect because she wanted to see his attainments in divine inscriptions. But what about Xia Qianhan? It seemed like he didn't know his own limitations at all. He felt that Qin Wentian wasn't qualified to be together with Xiao Lingyue. However, in Xiao Lingyue's heart, he probably didn't have much weight either. Xiao Lingyue didn't even care about the two chosen of the Xian emperor, let alone him, Xia Qianhan. Stop arguing. Xiao Lingyue unhappily spoke. Let's wait a few more days and see if they can decipher it. Xia Qianhan didn't say anything, he merely glanced at Qin Wentian with a cold gaze. There were many experts here, and there were also many geniuses who wanted to decipher the divine inscriptions. But as time flowed by, there was still no one who could decipher it. However, these geniuses were all very patient. After waiting for a few days without any results, Qin Wentian sat down at the side and closed his eyes to meditate. He knew he wouldn't be able to decipher the divine inscriptions, and he couldn't be bothered to waste time on it. This was a dead end. He couldn't see through the transformations of the divine inscriptions. Only by trying would he know. Qin Wentian. At this moment, Xiao Lingyue walked to the side of Qin Wentian and called out. Qin Wentian opened his eyes only to see Xiao Lingyue looking at him. During these few days, these geniuses didn't make any progress at all. Seems like you are right, I believe your words. But do you dare to take the risk? I feel that since there's an emperor palace here, there's no way it's a dead end. Qin Wentian replied. Okay, in that case I will follow you from now on. Xiao Lingyue smiled, exuding boundless charm. Qin Wentian stood up and his silhouette flickered. Xia Qianhan stared at Xiao Lingyue. Do you really want to take the risk? Since we're already here, why not give it a try? For those of the Xiao sect who are willing to back out, you can return. For those who are willing to take the risk, follow me. Xiao Lingyue slowly walked forward, her steps resolute. Since Xiao Lingyue was a female, how could the geniuses of the Xiao sect retreat? They exchanged glances and smiled as they followed after Xiao Lingyue. Qin Wentian passed by Xianxing inclined his head and stared at them, only to see Qin Wentian directly stepping onto the ancient pathway. Courting death. Xianxing coldly laughed. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian directly stepped on the runic diagram. Instantly, a thunderous boom rang out as a terrifying aura gushed forth, causing the ancient pathway to tremble and tremble, as though it was about to collapse. Although Xiao Lingyue was prepared, she was still stunned when she saw this scene. But in the next instant, she saw Qin Wentian's body being devoured by the ancient pathway. Gritting her teeth, her silhouette flickered as she stepped forward, entering the pathway together with Qin Wentian. Go, let's enter. The people of the Xiao sect all stepped in, allowing the ancient pathway to bury them. Everyone has gone crazy. Xianxing's eyes flashed with a dazzling light. After which, he spoke, those of the Twin Stars Alliance follow me in. His personality was one that refused to submit to others, and his attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were also extremely high. In truth, he could faintly sense that Qin Wentian's words might be right. This was a path of no return, it was just that he wasn't willing to admit it. But since Xiao Lingyue dared to take the risk, how could he retreat? With someone leading the way, the guts of the others instantly grew bolder. This was especially so when the great beauty Xiao Lingyue took the lead. The geniuses naturally couldn't avoid her. Hence, the geniuses of the Xiao sect all stepped into the ancient pathway. But an instant later, they felt the heavens and earth turning upside down, as though their bodies were buried underground. Numerous weak flames lit up the surroundings, illuminating this space. The geniuses surveyed their surroundings, only to discover that they were actually in an underground palace. Qin Wentian, you were right. Xiao Lingyue's beautiful eyes gleamed with sharpness when she saw this scene. The pathway wasn't on the ancient pathway, but rather it was underground. This underground palace was filled with complicated runic diagrams and was extremely vast. Ahead of them was a stretch of darkness, as though there was no end. Our luck isn't bad. Xianxing wasn't willing to admit that Qin Wentian saw through this earlier than him. And at this moment, Xianxing's silhouette abruptly flickered as he dashed towards a certain direction. Not only him, several other experts also dashed out at the same time. Qin Wentian was among them. Scram! Xianxing roared in rage. He stomped on the ground as the runic diagram on the ground directly lit up, radiating with a terrifying light. A ferocious beast with a towering baleful aura soared through the air, rushing towards Qin Wentian and the others. Qin Wentian similarly stepped towards a runic diagram. His body transformed into a bolt of lightning, akin to a wind rock, riding the wind as he lunged towards the wall ahead. What are they fighting for? Xiao Lingyue frowned. She instantly understood that these people were fighting for something. The ones who acted were all geniuses who were proficient in divine inscriptions. How dare they act on their own? Xia Qianhan spoke. Lingyue, we have to be on guard against this man. Xiao Lingyue stared ahead. At this moment, she also understood that the runic diagrams in this underground palace were all extremely powerful divine inscriptions. These geniuses who were proficient in divine inscriptions were directly borrowing the power of their divine inscriptions to clash against each other. Qin Wentian borrowed the power of the wind rock. His speed explosively increased. However, the attacks from the powerful divine inscriptions directly rushed towards him. Xianxing roared in rage, "You dare?" After speaking, his palms expanded as a terrifying ancient killing imprint blasted out. However, Qin Wentian's body had already reached the wall. He pressed his palms upwards as a brilliant light flashed. It was as though a picture scroll had appeared, directly rushing into Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. The attacks from the back were all focused on him as well. Qin Wentian's body trembled violently as he transformed into a true wind rock. Rumbling sounds rang out as the attacks slammed into Qin Wentian's afterimage. "I've already obtained the map. Why aren't you helping out yet?" Qin Wentian roared as he sped forward. Upon hearing his words, Xiao Lingyue and the others also dashed out, dashing towards Qin Wentian. A terrifying freezing might gushed forth from her as she clenched her fist in the air. The terrifying freezing might caused all the geniuses here to shiver. However, Xianxing still rushed towards Qin Wentian. His eyes gleamed with a dazzling sharpness, as though a terrifying astral light could be seen within. It was as though he had opened his heavenly eye, and at this instant, all the divine inscriptions and diagrams in the palace couldn't be hidden from his eyes. He stepped out as boundless might gushed forth, wanting to obstruct Xiao Lingyue. Mystic eyes. Xiao Lingyue's expression froze. Qin Wentian was in danger. Chapter 906. Every step Xianxing took was akin to the dance of dragons and snakes. His powerful attacks didn't even need to exhaust his own energy. He was purely using the divine inscriptions in the underground palace to launch his attacks. Xianxing had a pair of mystic eyes that could see through divine inscriptions with a single glance. His attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were extremely high, and as long as there were attack-type divine inscriptions in this underground palace, he would be able to use them to his advantage. As Qin Wentian madly sprinted forward, he felt a towering pressure gushing towards him from behind. He didn't pause for even a moment and directly stepped on a certain diagram. Abruptly, the diagram lit up, becoming incomparably resplendent. His body seemed to be clad in a layer of fearsome devil armor, impenetrable. Turning around, he directly blasted out a punch. There were powerful divine imprints inscribed on his devil armor, and with this punch, numerous devils howled and rushed out, blasting towards Xianxing's attack. Terrifying rumbling sounds reverberated throughout the underground palace, and the tremors caused everyone to feel as though this underground palace was going to collapse at any moment. Divine inscriptions armor. Xianxing's expression was incredibly unsightly to behold. So it turned out that Qin Wentian had sped towards that direction because he saw the divine inscriptions armor, and was the first to obtain it. At this moment, Qin Wentian's entire body shone resplendently, exuding an unexcelled aura. Numerous silhouettes sped over, surrounding Qin Wentian. Those from the Twin Stars Alliance and the other geniuses all understood that this underground palace might very well be the passageway to the true Emperor Palace. Since Qin Wentian had obtained the map, this matter was extremely important. Hand it over. Xianxing stepped out step by step, only to see a terrifying flood dragon soaring into the air, aiming to devour Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian coldly laughed. With a wave of his hand, he pressed his palm onto a runic diagram and slashed out ferociously. A towering devil saber slashed down from the heavens, slamming into the black flood dragon. The flood dragon was destroyed, while the devil saber was shattered. What a powerful attainment in the Tao of divine inscriptions. Although he doesn't have the mystic eyes, he's still extremely familiar with the divine inscriptions in this underground palace. Everyone stared at Qin Wentian. This person was like a tiger that had grown wings in the underground palace, and his strength had become much stronger. Xianxing, it doesn't seem right for you to treat the people of my Xiao clan like this. Xiao Lingyue walked up. Although she was clad in crimson robes, right now her entire body exuded an aura of coldness, causing people to involuntarily shiver. The person you invited has guts. Xianxing smiled at Qin Wentian and said, since the map is with him, let him lead the way. Everyone follow him, how about it? All right. Xiao Lingyue nodded. She didn't reject. If they really found the Emperor Palace, the strength of their Xiao sect would be the strongest. What was there to fear? On the contrary, in this underground palace, their hands and feet would be tied. Qin Wentian, you lead the way. Xiao Lingyue stepped forward, arriving at the back of Qin Wentian as she transmitted her voice to him. Well done. Qin Wentian smiled as he continued walking forward. This underground palace was extremely vast, resembling a mausoleum of an emperor. It was vast and sinister, exuding an ancient and mysterious aura. Several paths appeared in front of them, each of them exuding a mysterious aura. Which path should we take? Xiao Lingyue asked. This one. Qin Wentian pointed to a path in front of him as he continued walking forward. The others followed behind him. A gust of cold wind gusted by, exuding a sinister aura, causing people to feel a chill down their spines. This space seemed to be a gigantic cave dwelling with stone walls, as though they were in the middle of an ancient mountain. However, the stone walls were uneven, causing the cave dwelling to be in an irregular shape, extending outwards unceasingly. The various geniuses didn't say anything. They were all very calm with solemn expressions. If this was truly the path to the Emperor Palace, they might encounter danger at any moment. They had no choice but to be cautious. And at this moment, the footsteps of the group abruptly halted. Their gazes were fixed ahead, and on the ground, there were actually many corpses. In fact, there were even some experts who had fallen here, but their corpses were still perfectly preserved. The hearts of everyone trembled. In front of them, there was a mysterious ancient wall with countless complicated runic inscriptions inscribed on it. Xiao Lingyue's silhouette flickered as she appeared before an intact corpse. The skin of this corpse was like jade, incomparably flawless. However, there was no aura coming from it. Evidently, this person was already dead, and it was unknown how long he had been dead for. At the very least, he's an immortal foundation expert. Xiao Lingyue's gaze froze. Such skin, there was no doubt that this was an immortal physique. She slowly moved forward, arriving before another corpse. This corpse was already smashed into smithereens, revealing some of its bones. However, there seemed to be marvelous runic inscriptions engraved on these bones, as though they were the laws of the great Tao. They actually contained traces of terrifying might. Rune bones. Seems like this person has already established an immortal king physique. Every single bone in his body is a supreme treasure. Xiao Lingyue's countenance trembled. When this person was alive, he must have been an immortal king. Even his bones contained rune bones, containing powerful law energy. Many of the corpses here belonged to immortal kings. Such characters had all died here. What did you obtain exactly? Is it really just a map? At this moment, a cold voice drifted over. Xianxing's eyes stared at Qin Wentian, as coldness flashed in his eyes. He wouldn't trust people easily, let alone a stranger. Earlier, the scroll on the wall was unique. There seemed to be some marvelous diagrams circulating within it. Hence, all of them were fighting over it. But right now, only Qin Wentian knew if it was really a map or not. The person who shouted out that he obtained the map was none other than Qin Wentian himself. At this moment, Xiao Lingyue's gaze also turned to Qin Wentian. Her beautiful eyes gleamed with a bright light. Evidently, a trace of suspicion appeared in her heart. Only Qin Wentian knew if this was really a map or not. Qin Wentian, tell me the truth. Is that really the map of this underground palace? Where is the end point? What is our current location? Xiao Lingyue transmitted her voice to Qin Wentian. After Xianxing's reminder, Xiao Lingyue started to feel suspicious. This is a dead end, there's no map at all. At this moment a voice rang out. The gazes of the crowd turned over and stared at the stone wall in front of them. A Heaven's Chosen stood there, staring at an unmoving body. This body was sitting there, as though it had died in a seated position. Xiao Lingyue's beautiful eyes flashed with sharpness, after which her silhouette flickered. The others also moved towards that person, following his gaze. On the ground before the corpse, there was actually a row of words inscribed there. Tens of thousands of years, thinking of countless endings. Who would have thought that I would be trapped here, dying at the end of my lifespan? This line of words was shocking to the eye, causing those who saw it to feel a chill run down their spines. They felt a bone-chilling coldness from head to toe. This expert who died in a seated posture was trapped here for tens of thousands of years? He had thought of countless endings, yet he didn't expect that he would be trapped here, dying at the end of his lifespan. Tens of thousands of years, what a terrifying number of years. There was a high possibility that this person was also an immortal king who had reached the end of his lifespan and was trapped here until his death. Even immortal kings were like this. What about them? Numerous cold gazes landed on Qin Wentian as killing intent gushed forth. Even the experts of the Xiao sect were staring at Qin Wentian, their countenances cold and filled with killing intent. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian wanting to enter this place, they wouldn't have taken the risk. Only when Qin Wentian took the lead did they dare to enter. In that case, the scroll Qin Wentian obtained might not be a map at all. There was no map at all. Xiao Lingyue's countenance turned cold. Qin Wentian had lied to her. Why haven't you guys finished reading the words? Qin Wentian spoke. Everyone naturally had already finished reading. There was still a row of words below. Ancient Emperor Yi, how can one comprehend the secrets of this underground palace? The killing intent radiating from everyone was extremely terrifying as they stared at Qin Wentian. An immortal king was trapped here, and they were all brought in by Qin Wentian. You guys wanted to enter the Emperor Palace and I brought you in. This is indeed the passageway. From this, we can already be certain that this is an underground palace created by an ancient emperor. What's laughable is that you guys are all geniuses of the immortal realms and chose to enter willingly. Now you guys are actually venting your anger on me? Don't you find this ironic? Qin Wentian laughed. I don't think I forced anyone to enter this place, right? Although Qin Wentian said this, the expressions of everyone were still unfriendly. Xia Qianhan's countenance turned even colder. Lingyue, I've long said that we can't trust this man so easily. Now that he brought us into this place of danger, he deserves to die. But what he said isn't wrong. This is indeed the passageway to the Emperor Palace of an ancient emperor. If we can unravel the secrets of the underground palace, we might be able to obtain the secrets of ancient Emperor Yi or even his inheritance. Xiao Lingyue spoke. You guys should have heard of ancient Emperor Yi before, right? The eyes of everyone gleamed with sharpness. If they saw ancient Emperor Yi's name before, they would surely be wild with joy. But right now, panic had covered their joy. An immortal king had died here. How could they feel joy? Of course I know. Ancient Emperor Yi was a character who once unified the immortal realms. It's rumored that in this immortal realms, only those supreme characters who managed to do so would have the qualifications to be known as ancient emperors. Ancient Emperor Yi was one of them. A character whose name shook the past and present. To think that his emperor palace would really be in the city of ancient emperors. If this was known to the outside world, it would surely cause a huge commotion. Someone spoke. The city of ancient emperors has always been independent from the immortal realms. It's a mysterious place. Without permission, even immortal kings and emperors wouldn't be able to enter. Before this, I've already heard that there were ruins left behind by ancient emperors. Now that I personally saw ancient Emperor Yi's name appearing here, I can only feel how mysterious this place is. Although Xiao Lingyue was panicking in her heart, she still maintained a clear head. If we can obtain the world-shaking secret art of ancient Emperor Yi, Xiao Lingyue mumbled, her words causing the hearts of many who had heard of ancient Emperor Yi to tremble violently. According to the legends, ancient Emperor Yi's world-shaking secret art had been lost for many years. The reason why these immortal kings appeared here was most probably because of this secret art. Sadly, not only did they fail to obtain it, they even died here. Now that they came here, was it a blessing or a calamity? Chapter 907. Everyone fell silent. They were all descendants of immortal kings and emperors. Many of them have heard of the legends regarding ancient emperors before. They all knew that in the vast immortal realms, There had once been some world-shaking immortal emperors. These immortal emperors had once unified the vast chaotic immortal realms, standing at the peak of the immortal realms, becoming emperors of all times. Ancient Emperor E was one of them. And just like what was in this underground palace, Ancient Emperor E seemed to be an immortal emperor that was proficient in divine inscriptions and had a world-shaking secret art. There was always a legend in the immortal realms that if an immortal emperor could obtain the secret art of an ancient emperor, they would have the chance to dominate the immortal realms. How can it be so easy to obtain the secret art of Ancient Emperor E? Even immortal kings were trapped here, reaching the end of their lifespans, let alone us. In addition, even if the secret art of Ancient Emperor E was placed before us, who would dare to say that they would be able to comprehend it? Someone spoke, causing the hearts of everyone to sink again. What was a world-shaking secret art? A secret art that could shake the entire world, able to dominate the immortal realms. Even immortal kings and emperors yearned for it, let alone them. Also, if it really appeared before them, it would be extremely difficult to comprehend it. If it was so easy to comprehend, these secret arts wouldn't have been lost in the first place. The secret art of Ancient Emperor E should be God's hand, right? Xiao Lingyue spoke in a low voice, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. Indeed, Ancient Emperor Yi's ultimate art was none other than God's hand. Just hearing the name of this art would cause countless illusions to appear. However, nobody knew what God's hand was, and nobody had ever seen how terrifying God's hand was. Could it really shatter the heavens and earth? It's God's hand. However, what we should be discussing now, shouldn't we be discussing what exactly did this person obtain earlier? Xianxing pointed his finger at Qin Wentian, as though he had no intentions of letting Qin Wentian off. Qin Wentian frowned, staring at Xianxing. I already said that it's a map? It's already imprinted in your mind. I don't believe you. Xianxing coldly snorted. You also know that it's already imprinted in my mind. If you don't believe me, could it be that you want to dig it out from my mind? Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Why not? If you don't hand it over, you will definitely die before the others. Xianxing stepped out as the experts of the Twin Stars Alliance surrounded Qin Wentian, exuding a terrifying aura. Right now, what's more important is to find a way out. There's no need to continue fighting. Xiao Lingyue coldly spoke. Lingyu previously, he lied to us and said that he had obtained the map. Perhaps it was because he wanted us to help him. Why do we have to interfere? Xia Qianhan said from the side. I'll say it again. That's the map of the underground palace. The ancient path that we were on earlier has 5 forks, and this is one of them. If not for your sudden attack, I wouldn't have tried to snatch the map away. Actually, it's completely useless. It's only so that the people who come in can see the situation clearly. Otherwise, why do you think these corpses weren't taken away when they came in? Qin Wentian spoke in a loud voice, causing the expressions of everyone to freeze. Qin Wentian's words made sense. This map had always been present at the entrance, and there was a high possibility that it was just an ordinary map. We will settle this debt with you when we return. Xianxing pointed his finger at Qin Wentian. Let's go and see if there are any secrets hidden within the 5 forks. After speaking, Xianxing turned and led the experts of the Twin Stars Alliance away, preparing to explore the other 4 forks. Xiao Lingyue's brows were tightly furrowed. After a moment, she spoke in a low voice. Even immortal kings died here. If we say we can find a way out, that's nothing but a fool's dream. We should take a closer look and see if there are any secrets hidden within this underground palace. Qin Wentian, you are proficient in divine inscriptions. It's rumored that Ancient Emperor Yi was also a terrifying divine inscriptionist grandmaster. The entire underground palace is engraved with divine inscriptions. Take a look and see if there's any way to open the mechanism. Xiao Lingyue spoke to Qin Wentian. Right. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. He surveyed this cavern-like space. Regardless of the stone walls or the space above his head, there were countless divine inscriptions engraved on them. There were many unique types of divine inscriptions that could be fused together at will. For those who were proficient in divine inscriptions, they would be able to find countless types of divine inscriptions here. To those who cultivated in the field of divine inscriptions, this place was like a treasure trove. But compared to Ancient Emperor Yi, this treasure trove was insignificant. Hence, even those geniuses who were proficient in divine inscriptions didn't pay too much attention to it. Qin Wentian observed for a long time. Yet a pessimistic feeling appeared in his heart. From the looks of it, other than divine inscriptions there was nothing else. Seemed like there was no other way out. A few hours later, Xiao Lingyue walked to Qin Wentian's side and asked, "Did you discover anything?" "No." Qin Wentian shook his head. He was the one who brought Xiao Lingyue in. From her beautiful eyes he actually couldn't see any anger or resentment. This point caused Qin Wentian to be extremely startled. Xiao Lingyue's temperament was extraordinary. "I'll go take a look at the other places." Qin Wentian spoke. Xiao Lingyue nodded her head. "I'll accompany you. If you meet Xianxing, he might act against you again." After speaking, she didn't even ask for Qin Wentian's opinion and directly led the way. Qin Wentian stared at her back view before following after her. The atmosphere in the palace was extremely quiet. Only the sound of footsteps could be heard. Xiao Lingyue turned her head back and smiled. That smile of hers seemed to be able to hook away the souls of people. "Do you think that we will be like those immortal kings and die when we reach the end of our lifespans?" Xiao Lingyue suddenly asked. "I won't think about this," Qin Wentian replied. "I'll only think about how to exit this place." "You are very optimistic." Xiao Lingyue smiled. "Those immortal kings have already forged their immortal bodies, and their bodies won't rot. If we die when we reach the end of our lifespans, we would only be a pile of bones. No matter how I look now, at that time I would definitely be extremely ugly." After speaking, a bitter smile appeared on her face, as though she was mocking herself. Qin Wentian didn't say anything. The two of them continued walking forward quietly, arriving at the fork in the road. Xiao Lingyue stood beside Qin Wentian and smiled. "What you saw? Was it really just a map of the underground palace?" There's no need for me to lie to you." Qin Wentian nodded. "I believe you." Xiao Lingyue smiled. "Come, let's take a look at the other paths." Qin Wentian cast a deep glance at Xiao Lingyue's back view, feeling a chill running down his spine. Did Xiao Lingyue really believe him? If she did, why would she intentionally walk together with him? She even smiled radiantly at him earlier and asked this question. Although Xiao Lingyue's actions were extremely natural, Qin Wentian had long since passed the age of ignorance. How could he not see through her? This Xiao Lingyue was even more terrifying compared to what he had imagined. Her scheming ability caused him to feel a chill in his heart. Did Xiao Lingyue really not feel any resentment towards him for bringing Xiao Lingyue to this forbidden ground? Qin Wentian continued following behind Xiao Lingyue. The two of them each had their own worries in their hearts. Neither of them knew what the other was thinking. This ancient path was extremely similar to the one before. There were no abnormalities at all. At the end of the ancient path there were also a few corpses. Next, the third path, the fourth path, the fifth path, all of them were the same. Such a situation caused the geniuses who were trapped here to feel even more terror. Was there really no other path to take in this underground palace? Did they have to sit here and wait for death? Just a few days later, the emotions of the geniuses all felt somewhat off. Ancient emperors, ancient emperors, ancient emperors and ancient emperor E were all tossed to the back of their minds. Right now they only wanted to leave this place. Although they could cultivate for several months or even several years, this was different. They were currently facing the threat of death. If they couldn't find the exit, they would die. Every day was a torment. Their frustrated emotions piled up day by day. After a month, even Xiao Lingyue's face no longer had the slightest hint of a smile on it. Her countenance was like 10,000-year-old ice, so cold that it was terrifying. Not only in the underground palace, even in the outside world, there were many experts gathered here. Among them, there were many from the Xiao sect and the Twin Stars Alliance. There was a young man among them that was extremely conspicuous. He stood in the center of the crowd, exuding an extraordinary aura. His features bore a striking resemblance to Xianxing. This young man was none other than the elder brother of Xianxing, Xianyang of the Twin Stars Alliance. He was ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Xianxing has already been in there for a month, right? Xianyang coldly spoke. The people around him could all feel the coldness radiating from him. Xiao Lingyue and the others as well. Someone replied. The son of the Xian Emperor and the daughter of the Xiao Emperor, both of them had actually disappeared. Nobody knew what the consequences would be. If they died, The crowd couldn't help but shiver when they thought of this. Lengyue. Among the people of the Shao sect, there was also a silhouette exuding magnificence through the generations. He stared ahead, his countenance as sharp as a divine weapon. His gaze turned to two people not far away from him. They were none other than Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen. Your friend brought Lengyue into such a desperate situation. If anything happens to Lengyue, I want all of you to die together with her. That young man icily spoke, his words causing Jun Mengchen to coldly stare at him. A bunch of fools. Little rascal lay lazily in Zi Qingxuan's embrace. Upon seeing the lazy look on his face, Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen knew that nothing had happened to Qin Wentian. In a place infinitely far away from here, in a certain particle world, an old man stood on the peak of an ancient mountain. Beside him was an extremely cold-looking man, and right in front of them, a young man was slowly moving closer. Walking to the side of the old man, the young man asked, Senior, do you know of ancient Emperor Yi? I do. Why are you asking this for? The old man faintly asked, feeling somewhat unhappy. I want to know what sort of energy ancient Emperor Yi was proficient in. The young man asked. God's hand. However, although it's called God's hand in truth, it's something that can be unleashed from the energy in one's body. He tempered his body to the point that it's compatible with the laws of the universe, allowing his palms to unleash a heaven-shaking might. God's hand isn't a palm technique. It's a technique that can be used to unleash any sort of innate technique. Any attack he unleashed would be able to unleash terrifying might in his hands. This is why it's called God's hand, the old man calmly replied. Chapter 908. Qin Wentian naturally knew about the conversation between Ditian's clone and the old man. His true body had already undergone nirvanic rebirth and their minds were connected. Yet they didn't interfere with each other's cultivation. Qin Wentian was still trapped in the cavern. He started to study the divine inscriptions in the underground palace, starting from the path he took to enter. This underground palace didn't seem to be dangerous at all, but its very existence was already fatal, able to trap people to death, causing them to feel despair. In fact, there weren't any clues left behind, only the corpses of the ancestors, causing one to feel a chill in their hearts. If there was a clue, it would be the divine inscriptions that covered the entire underground palace. Qin Wentian could only guess from this point of view. He had no other choice or he would only be waiting for death. Qin Wentian entered the underground palace again, advancing step by step. At the same time, in a faraway particle world, Qin Wentian was inscribing all the divine inscriptions Ditian saw on a piece of paper, restoring it to its original state. His true body and Ditian's clone advanced together, trying to find a chance of survival to unravel the secret of this underground palace. Time flowed by bit. Qin Wentian slowly advanced through the underground palace. Xiao Lingyue was quietly leaning against the wall in front of him. Her soft and beautiful figure was filled with curves, and her arms were crossed in front of her chest, exuding an alluring aura. However, Qin Wentian had no other thoughts in his mind. He had no time to admire her charm. After a long time, Xiao Lingyue finally couldn't help but ask, "What are you doing?" Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at Xiao Lingyue. "I can't just wait for death in this underground palace. I want to see if there are any secrets hidden within the divine inscriptions." A rare smile appeared on Xiao Lingyue's face. "I'm not proficient in divine inscriptions. I don't understand them. I hope you will be able to do it." "I will do my best." Qin Wentian nodded. After that, he continued to observe. In the cavern that had 5 paths leading to it, rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly as an expert howled, "Damn it, what are these stone walls made of exactly? They can't even move a single inch. Don't waste your energy. Even immortal kings are trapped here. If you can blast a way out, wouldn't immortal kings be nothing but a joke?" Someone spoke. "We can't just wait for death." As the roars rang out, the rumbling sounds continued, but it was useless. The toughness of the cave was beyond imagination. Not to mention creating a way out, it was impossible to even leave a mark on the cave. Only the echoes of the roars reverberated in their ears. As time flowed by, the tyrannical emotions in the air grew stronger and stronger. Qin Wentian arrived at a fork in the road. He stared at the 5 different paths, and there were geniuses in each of them, all of them coldly staring at Qin Wentian. A proud son of heaven slowly walked forward, step by step towards Qin Wentian. His aura bloomed, as if he was filled with intense resentment. He walked up to Qin Wentian and said coldly, "Don't you think you should pay for what you've done?" Quite a few people turned their gazes over, staring at Qin Wentian as though they were watching a show. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the genius before him as he coldly laughed. "What price do I have to pay? You brought us here, what price do you think I have to pay?" That genius had a malevolent expression on his face. The baleful aura that he had been hiding during these few days all surfaced on his face. "Do I know you?" Qin Wentian stared at him. "Have I spoken to you before? Why did I ask you to follow me in? Are you despicable? Even a clay figurine would have 3 points of fire." Qin Wentian was provoked time and time again. How could he not feel resentment in his heart? Everyone followed him involuntarily. Other than Xiao Lengyue, Qin Wentian, the others followed him unwillingly. He didn't even know who they were. But now all of them were pointing their spears at him? What a great joke. Boom! A destructive aura suddenly erupted. The genius in front of him blasted out a terrifying fist of darkness. The fist was filled with corrosive black flames. It was as if coming into contact with even the slightest bit of it would cause one to pay a heavy price. If one was hit by this fist, one's entire body would probably be destroyed by the corrosive flames. Boom! Qin Wentian stomped on the ground. Instantly, a fearsome astral light enveloped his body as a fearsome gigantic battle spear appeared, piercing out frenziedly, clashing against the fist light of his opponent. That genius roared in rage. He released his constellation, causing the entire sky to be plunged into darkness as destructive black flames danced wildly in the air. Qin Wentian took another step forward, causing the diagram on the ground to light up. A terrifying prison appeared beneath his opponent's feet, wanting to trap him within. This prison shone with boundless golden light, as though it was indestructible. Die! Qin Wentian waved his hands as terrifying battle spears and spears pierced through the air from all directions, aiming for the prison. The countenance of that genius turned ashen. At this moment, this underground palace had transformed into Qin Wentian's battlefield. He could borrow the power of the divine inscriptions on the ground to engage in a frenzied battle. The constellation of that genius manifested as boundless corrosive black flames blasted out in all directions, unceasingly destroying the attacks aimed at him. However, as Qin Wentian continued waving his hands, it seemed as though his attacks would never stop. Every time he waved his hands, a majestic attack would be unleashed, as though he wanted to annihilate everything in his path. Puchi! A piercing sound rang out. The shoulder of that genius was pierced by a battle spear. Fresh blood instantly dyed his body red, and his countenance was as pale as paper. However, the countless battle spears didn't seem to stop. The spectators all frowned. Qin Wentian could borrow the power of the divine inscriptions here to fight. He was like a fish in water. He didn't need to expend much energy in order to unleash a frenzied attack. The chaotic qi flow stopped. Qin Wentian waved his hands as the prison dissipated. He coldly stared at his opponent as he spoke, "Scram. If you dare to be so despicable again, I'll kill you." That genius turned ashen. He rubbed his injured shoulder and coldly glanced at Qin Wentian before turning and departing the area. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over to the experts here. After which, he lifted his feet and walked towards the left, continuing to study the divine inscriptions in this underground palace. Xian Sheng and the other geniuses who were proficient in divine inscriptions also did the same thing as Qin Wentian, starting to study the divine inscriptions in this underground palace. Just like what Qin Wentian had thought, these divine inscriptions were the only clues left in this underground palace. He could only start from the divine inscriptions, or he would only be waiting for death. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. Many people in the outside world were extremely anxious. The son of the Xian Emperor and the daughter of the Xiao Emperor had already been missing for 3 months. Not only that, there were several other rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings who had also disappeared together with them. During these 3 months, Qin Wentian studied all the divine inscriptions in the underground palace. Di Tian had also inscribed them down in a particle world far away. At this instant Tian's gaze was fixated ahead as his heart trembled with shock. What appeared before his eyes was a three-dimensional diagram that was formed from countless divine inscriptions. This diagram actually formed a unique shape that was extremely difficult to see when one was trapped in the underground palace. But after the divine inscriptions were all drawn out, it was so clear that it was imprinted in his eyes. This was a gigantic palm imprint. The divine inscriptions on the 5 paths intertwined together to form 5 fingers, and the path at the very front was an arm. At this moment, Qin Wentian thought back to the diagram in his mind as a hint of comprehension appeared in his heart. So it turned out that the moment he entered this underground palace, there was already a hint that this diagram was in the shape of a hand. Emperor Yi's ultimate art was none other than God's hand. What sort of secrets were hidden within? At this moment, a silhouette appeared before Tian. It was none other than that old man. He stared at the diagram and spoke. I was wondering why you would ask about Emperor Yi. This palm imprint is extremely profound. Did your original body obtain the ultimate art of Emperor Yi? No. Tian shook his head. It's just that in a ruin left behind by Emperor Yi, I managed to draw out all the divine inscriptions there. That's the diagram before us. Oh. An expression of interest appeared on the old man's face as he smiled. Seems like your original body has some good fortune. However, it's not so easy to comprehend the ultimate art of Emperor Yi. I naturally understand. Tian nodded. The diagram before him seemed to be separated from each other. Each of the divine inscriptions here could be a combat-type divine inscription, but there were also a myriad of combinations. Right now, all the divine inscriptions in the underground palace were intertwined together, transforming into this incomparably complicated diagram that actually formed the shape of a palm imprint. Take your time to comprehend it then. The old man spoke. After that, his silhouette flickered as he vanished from sight once more. The ultimate art of Emperor Yi, God's hand, wasn't an elemental attack. It was a truly supremely powerful art. If Tian was lucky enough to comprehend it, he naturally wouldn't mind it. Naturally, the old man could also tell that this palm imprint wasn't the true ultimate art of Emperor Yi. There was a very high possibility that this palm imprint was just a guide for people to learn it. In the underground palace, Qin Wentian sat cross-legged. His thoughts were focused on Tian. This way, he would be able to see everything that Tian saw. Both of them were trying to comprehend the secret behind this palm imprint. Not far away from Qin Wentian, Xiao Lingyue was still quietly leaning against the wall, observing Qin Wentian's actions. After he walked through all 5 paths, he actually sat down to cultivate. Could it be that he had discovered something? Although Xiao Lingyue was powerful, she wasn't proficient in divine inscriptions. Hence, she could only observe the state of these people who were proficient in divine inscriptions and see if they could unravel the secret behind this underground palace. If they could really unravel the secret, they might really have a chance to enter the true Emperor Palace of Emperor Yi. She believed that the Emperor Palace they saw in the City of Ancient Emperors was definitely a real existence. Since there was an underground palace here, there was a high possibility that it was a passageway. From a certain perspective, Qin Wentian's words might be correct. This underground palace was merely a test left behind by Emperor Yi, and this test was extremely difficult to the extent that even immortal kings died here. Naturally, all of this was merely Xiao Lingyue's conjecture. As for the true ending, no one would know before they unravel the secret behind this underground palace. Chapter 909. Qin Wentian seemed to have entered a meditative state, completely immersed in his comprehension. Since he had already drawn out this gigantic palm imprint in a 3-dimensional form, there was a high possibility that the secret of the underground palace would be contained within this gigantic palm imprint. If he could comprehend the secret within, there might be a chance for him to leave this place. However, this gigantic palm imprint was incomparably profound, containing countless transformations and was extremely difficult to comprehend. Qin Wentian told Tian to stop his cultivation because he hoped that he would be able to unravel it. In the underground palace, Xia Qianhan walked to the side of Xiao Lingyue and asked Linga, "It's true that there's no way to find the exit here. Why do you still want to protect that person?" Xiao Lingyue stared at Qin Wentian. She didn't look at Xia Qianhan as she replied, Now is the time for everyone to work together to think of a way to leave this place. Don't keep thinking about such things. Even if I vent my hatred on Qin Wentian, so what? Can I find the exit? Well said. A voice drifted over, only to see Xianxing slowly walking over. His eyes were dazzling, gleaming with a mysterious light. He was the same as Qin Wentian. He had already seen through all the divine inscriptions in this underground palace. With his mystic eyes, no divine inscriptions would be able to escape his eyes. But so what? Even if he could unravel the divine inscriptions one by one, he wouldn't be able to unravel the secret within the entire underground palace. However, Xiaoling'o, are you really so magnanimous? The others can say that they followed you guys in, but you were the one who lured him into the Emperor Palace. Don't you have any resentment at all? Xianxing stared into Xiaoling'ue's eyes. Those sharp eyes of his seemed to be able to see through people. This Xiaoling'ue was truly a character. If it was him, he wouldn't be able to do what Xiaoling'ue did, not showing any resentment on the surface and even protecting Qin Wentian. Lingyue, say something. I can kill him for you. How about it? Xianxing laughed. From the moment he entered, he already couldn't stand Qin Wentian. Let alone now that they were stuck here. His hatred for Qin Wentian had already accumulated to a certain degree. Xiaoling'ue glanced at Xianxing as she coldly spoke. My matters have nothing to do with you. You better find a way out yourself. Haha, Xiaoling'ue, we're already trapped here. Why must you be so cold? If we really die here, we can be considered to have lived and died together. Xianxing laughed insolently. After which, his eyes stared in the direction of Qin Wentian as a cold light flashed in his eyes. This Qin Wentian was truly so carefree, to think that he could still cultivate in peace. Since you have so much time on your hands, why don't you go and comprehend the divine inscriptions in the underground palace, and see if there are any secrets hidden within? Xiaoling'ue's voice was as cold as ever. In this underground palace she was like a blind person, helpless to do anything. The only people she could rely on were these geniuses who were proficient in divine inscriptions. This was also the reason why she had always protected Qin Wentian. She naturally could tell that Qin Wentian's attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were extremely high. If a 9th-level ascendant fought against him here, there was a high probability that the 9th-level ascendant would be defeated. There was already a precedent of this before. Humph, Xianxing coldly snorted. Comprehend the secrets hidden within? Did Xiaoling'ue think that he didn't want to? However, she had no clue at all. She didn't know where to start. Glancing at the corpse in front of him, his gaze turned even colder when he stared at Qin Wentian. Xianxing, should we? Beside Xianxing, a few geniuses from the Twin Stars Alliance walked over, making a slashing motion at Qin Wentian. There's no rush. In any case, we're already trapped here and won't be able to escape. If we kill him now, wouldn't we have one less person to accompany us? Xianxing seemed to have changed his mind. He wasn't in a hurry to kill Qin Wentian. He could already feel the taste of torment, and this feeling wasn't good at all. If he killed Qin Wentian so early, wouldn't Qin Wentian be spared from such torment? In the following days, to the geniuses who were trapped here, every single day was filled with agony. There was no way out, no chance of survival, no motivation for them to cultivate. Even if they broke through to Immortal Foundation, it was useless. Even immortal kings died here. What could Immortal Foundation change? This underground palace was like a devil's curse, perplexing everyone. There was no way to undo it, causing the emotions of the geniuses to grow more and more violent. It was as though there would come a day when they would lose control of their emotions. Qin Wentian still sat there cross-legged, as though he would never move. On his body, there seemed to be a layer of armor shimmering with light. That was the Fiend God Body Refinement Art. The Fiend God Body Refinement Art used the power of divine inscriptions to temper one's fleshly body, and it required the Spirit Refinement method as a supplement. Qin Wentian had been comprehending the giant palm imprint for a very long time. He could faintly sense that there were some similarities between the giant palm imprint and the Fiend God Body Refinement Art. It was just that the Fiend God Body Refinement Art was used to temper one's Fiend God body, while the giant palm imprint was purely offensive. However, if one were to comprehend it in this direction, there might be an effect. He cultivated the Spirit Refinement method. He had an innate advantage. Qin Wentian even used the 10,000 Laws record as a supplement to his cultivation. In the illusory dreamscape, he seemed to be immersed in the endless flow of divine inscriptions on the giant palm imprint. He couldn't see the specific divine inscriptions, but he was within it. The divine inscriptions on the giant palm imprint enveloped him, and it was as though the divine inscriptions were a complete entity, capable of a myriad of transformations, possessing an unfathomable might. The path of cultivation is to go from simplicity to complexity, and from complexity to simplicity, Qin Wentian silently mused. With regards to this point, he had already comprehended it a very long time ago. This was the case for any type of energy. Starting from the basics, from simplicity to complexity, after mastering it, no matter how complex an innate technique was, it would be able to be unleashed in an instant. It was as though it was a matter of a single thought, and with a wave of one's hand, one would be able to unleash a powerful attack that was previously so difficult to comprehend. The comprehension of energy was just so profound. Qin Wentian was thinking that at this moment, he hadn't reached the stage where he could comprehend from complexity to simplicity. With regards to the comprehension of this giant palm imprint, he should start from the simplest. Spirit refinement method. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. It was time for the spirit refinement method to unleash its profundities. He was prepared to start from the very beginning. The first step was to mimic all of the divine inscriptions on the giant palm imprint. Maybe he might be able to return to simplicity, but this process was something that could never be skipped. Cultivation was just like this, one had to take each and every step, there were no shortcuts. Qin Wentian had no distractions in his heart, fully immersing himself in his own cultivation. Hence, he couldn't sense the flow of time, nor could he sense the baleful aura of the other heavens chosen. He had something to do, and since he was so focused, he had no concept of time at all. However, the others had nothing to do, and every second was excruciating. Within the underground palace, the various heavens chosen walked back and forth. There were people who tried to blast every corner of the palace, but to no avail. They couldn't even move the slightest bit. There were no openings here, they simply didn't exist. Almost everyone who passed by Qin Wentian, regardless of whether they were from the Twin Stars Alliance or the Shao sect, would all stare coldly at him. The coldness in their eyes grew increasingly intense as time passed. They had no way to blame themselves for being rash and impulsive, following Qin Wentian into the palace. They could only blame Qin Wentian for his arrogance, bringing them into such a desperate situation. This was the nature of humans. If looks could kill, it was unknown how many times Qin Wentian would have died already. Xiaolingyu, you are truly patient. Xianxing once again came here, staring at Xiaolingyu as he stared at Qin Wentian. Xiaolingyu's heart trembled slightly. Patience? His patience was slowly whittling away with each passing day. From the time they entered this underground palace, it had already been 5 months. They didn't cultivate, nor did they improve. Every day they spent their time in torment, searching and searching. Eventually they would feel despair. His patience is even better than yours. Xianxing's sinister gaze once again turned to Qin Wentian. He couldn't help but admit that Qin Wentian's patience was the best out of all of them. He still wanted to see Qin Wentian enduring the torment. However, Qin Wentian didn't. He was immersed in his own world every day, quietly cultivating. It was like he wasn't trapped here but came here to cultivate. Such calmness and patience caused even Xianxing to feel a little jealous. Is he waiting for others to find a way out for him? Xianxing coldly spoke. At this moment, a figure walked towards Qin Wentian. Upon seeing this, Xianxing frowned as a cold smile flickered in his eyes. Finally, someone couldn't endure it any longer? At this moment, Qin Wentian was at a critical juncture. He could already form all the divine inscriptions he wanted. In the illusory space, he stood in the center of the gigantic palm imprint and stretched out his palm. Numerous runic inscriptions flowed as boundless divine energy appeared on his palm. As the runic inscriptions flowed, it felt as though in an instant, his palm was about to transform. As long as he willed it, he could create countless transformations in a short period of time, truly unfathomable. Qin Wentian retracted his palm. He stood in the center of the gigantic palm imprint, and when he stared at it again, he seemed to have gained a hint of comprehension. It was as though he could see the divine inscriptions within the gigantic palm imprint with his naked eyes, transforming unceasingly. This feeling was extremely mystical, he couldn't explain it clearly. But at this moment, Qin Wentian suddenly felt a terrifying sense of danger descending upon him from the outside world. His eyes abruptly opened only to see a blood-colored palm imprint blasting towards him. This terrifying palm imprint seemed to be able to crush him into meat paste with a single palm strike. Qin Wentian didn't even have the time to see who the attacker was. Qin Wentian hurriedly gathered all his strength and blasted out with his palms. Terrifying runic light circulated within his palms, directly colliding with the blood-colored palm imprint. In just an instant, Qin Wentian's body was flung through the air, directly slamming into the wall behind him. A terrifying surge of energy gushed into his body, causing him to groan in misery as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His countenance paled. Inclining his head, Qin Wentian stared ahead. Many people were staring in his direction. All of them had cold expressions on their faces, filled with baleful intent. This included Xiao Lengya. She was also watching, but this time around she didn't stop them. Qin Wentian's lips curled up in a demonic smile. He was doing his best to comprehend the mysteries of the underground palace, while these people had nothing better to do. Yet their hatred for him grew stronger and stronger, to the point where they wanted to kill him. How ridiculous was this? Chapter 9-10. Seems like you guys are truly waiting for death here. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over everyone. The aura of the genius who attacked him earlier was extremely violent. He laughed in disdain. Before I die, I will take your life first. Take my life? A look of ridicule appeared on Qin Wentian's face. You guys are waiting for death while I'm here alone, trying to comprehend the mysteries of the underground palace. What's even more lamentable is that trash who has nothing better to do actually want to vent their anger on me. How laughable is this? If I die, I'm afraid all of you can only wait for my death. Boasting shamelessly. That person's countenance was cold, staring at Qin Wentian as he continued stepping out. Stay your hand. A melodious voice rang out. Xiao Lingyue stepped out, her beautiful eyes staring at Qin Wentian as she asked, Qin Wentian, did you discover something? I've always been trying to comprehend the mysteries of the underground palace. What are these people doing? Qin Wentian swept his gaze over everyone. Xiao Lingyue, do you really believe his words? Only to see Xianxing also slowly walking up, staring at Qin Wentian. What can you possibly comprehend? There are countless divine inscriptions in the underground palace, with a myriad of transformations. Even with my mystic eyes, I can only unravel them one by one. I have no way to unravel the mysteries within. What qualifications do you have to boast shamelessly? Frog at the bottom of a well. Qin Wentian glanced at Xianxing. Rumbling sounds rang out as boundless runic light circulated in his palms. After which, he blasted out with his palms as an incomparably terrifying gigantic palm imprint appeared in the air. Within that gigantic palm imprint, there were actually countless divine inscriptions within. Not only that, Xianxing felt a sense of familiarity towards this palm imprint. Even if you can't do it, don't assume that others can't as well. You think your attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions are very high and others are inferior to you? You simply don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth and are short-sighted. How lamentable! Qin Wentian mocked. Xiao Lingyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. Although she wasn't proficient in divine inscriptions, she could sense the profoundness behind the palm imprint Qin Wentian blasted out earlier. It was extremely similar to the divine inscriptions she saw in the underground palace. Xianxing's expression darkened as he stared coldly at Qin Wentian. After a moment of silence, he opened his mouth. I was wondering why you had been cultivating in peace. So the map you spoke of is the secret of the entire underground palace. As soon as he said that, the expressions of all the cultivators changed again. They stared at Qin Wentian. Yes, the map that Qin Wentian got. Did it really contain the secret of the underground palace? Qin Wentian froze for a moment before a strange smile appeared on his face, as though he was mocking himself. Xianxing's pride was ingrained deep in his bones. He had always felt that he was the most outstanding one among these people. At the very least, his attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were as such. No matter what Qin Wentian said, even if he used facts to prove it, Xianxing would still be able to push all the blame onto the map. Qin Wentian understood that no matter what he said, it would be meaningless. He simply smiled and replied, "Let's just treat it as what you said. But right now all of you are waiting for death. Only I have a chance to find a way out. What do you guys want?" "You finally admitted it." Xianxing's killing intent gushed forth as he stepped forward. "Hand it over." "Very good. Seems like you have already made your choice." Qin Wentian glanced at Xianxing before turning his gaze onto the others. Xiao Lingyue's beautiful eyes flickered unceasingly, as though she was in contemplation. "Xianxing, Qin Wentian is right. You have nothing better to do. Although you're proficient in divine inscriptions, you chose to give up on it and still want to deal with Qin Wentian. Right now, he is the only one who has a chance to find a way out. I won't allow you to touch him." Xiao Lingyue expressed her attitude. Xianxing turned and stared at her. "Must you go against me because of him? If you want to think so, just treat it as so." Xiao Lingyue coldly spoke. The experts of the Xiao sect gathered behind her while those from the Twin Stars Alliance appeared beside Xianxing. The experts from both sides were in a stalemate again. "Let's talk about everything after we find the exit." At this moment, another person expressed his opinion. This person wasn't from either of the two major powers. "That's right. Since everyone is trapped here, there's no meaning in fighting. Do you want everyone to die together with him?" Another genius spoke as though everyone didn't agree with Xianxing. "Fine. Since everyone says so, let's give him some more time." The person who acted to kill Qin Wentian earlier finally spoke. His eyes stared coldly at Qin Wentian as he spoke. Upon hearing his words, an expression of interest appeared on Qin Wentian's face. After which, a mocking smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Were these people protecting him really for his own good? Clearly not. Once they found the exit, they would be like Xianxing and interrogate him about what he obtained exactly. In truth, as long as one used their brains and thought about it, Immortal Kings and Immortal Foundation characters were trapped here, and the map was left untouched. Could it be the treasure that concealed the secret of the underground palace? However, the greed of humans was incomprehensible. They were only willing to believe what they wanted. Just like Xianxing, he was certain that Qin Wentian must have obtained something. If not, how could he accomplish something that others couldn't? Is this the end? Qin Wentian laughed mockingly. "I'm trying to find a way out. Yet there are people who want to kill me. Now that you guys have agreed not to kill me, can this matter be considered settled? What do you want?" The countenance of the genius who acted against Qin Wentian turned cold as he spoke. Qin Wentian had a cold smile on his face. He pointed his finger at the genius's face as he coldly spoke. "Kill him. If not, you guys can find your own way out. None of you can even think about leaving." At the instant the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian's entire body was filled with coldness. Did this person really think that his temper was very good? Boom! That person roared and stepped out. His aura was terrifying as a terrifying pressure bore down on Qin Wentian. Yet at this moment Qin Wentian directly closed his eyes, as though he was waiting to be slaughtered. "Stop!" Someone roared. Numerous silhouettes flickered, directly surrounding that person. "What do you guys want to do?" That genius roared. "Qin Wentian, the city of ancient emperors doesn't kill people. Why must you do this?" Someone spoke. "Are you blind? Before this, why didn't you tell him that he wanted to kill me?" Qin Wentian coldly spoke. That genius who was surrounded by the crowd radiated a terrifying aura, as though he was prepared to attack at any moment. "Do it." A cold voice rang out as a powerful freezing energy bore down. It was actually Xiao Lingyue who took the initiative to act. Not only that, there were several experts from the Xiao sect who acted at the same time as her. Terrifying golden chains shot out from the diagram on the ground, directly binding the two geniuses. Divine inscriptionists acted, restricting the movements of the two geniuses so that they wouldn't take out their immortal ranked weapons, resulting in casualties. At this instant, rumbling auras gushed forth. Those people who didn't seem to have any intentions to act earlier all acted at the same time. Their decisiveness and ruthlessness caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. That encircled genius howled in rage, wanting to take out his immortal weapon, only to discover that countless attacks were raining down on him at the same time. His strength was restricted and his limbs were locked. Towering auras gushed forth at the same time. This was simply a path of no return. Qin Wentian watched everything that was happening indifferently. He felt a chill in his heart. For the sake of self-interest, the so-called rule of not killing was useless. Once these geniuses showed their fangs, they would be more decisive and terrifying than anyone else. He couldn't help but think of himself. These people thought that he had obtained some kind of treasure. If so, what would the consequences be once he went out? Qin Wentian, just focus on finding a way out. Since you are a member of my Shao sect, I naturally won't allow anything to happen to you. At this moment, Xiao Lingyue spoke in a tone filled with meaning, as though hinting at something. Right. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded. He could roughly guess Xiao Lingyue's thoughts. Qin Wentian walked to a corner and glanced at the crowd. After that, he sat down cross-legged and ignored the crowd, entering into a state of enlightenment. He believed that after this, no one would dare to act against him again. At the very least, before he exited the underground palace, no one would be so foolish as to dig their own graves. Xiao Lingyue and the others stared at Qin Wentian, each with their own ulterior motives in their hearts. Xianxing glanced at Xiao Lingyue. He could already guess what Xiao Lingyue was thinking. Most probably, Xiao Lingyue would do everything she could to protect Qin Wentian. Even after they exited the underground palace, she would still do so. Qin Wentian and Di Tian, the two of them, were still in the midst of comprehending. They stood in the center of the gigantic palm imprint, carefully contemplating. However, how could it be so easy to comprehend the art left behind by an ancient emperor? Time flowed by bit. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. Today, Qin Wentian finally gained a trace of enlightenment. God's hand. Maybe he finally understood the true meaning of God's hand. However, he was still immersed in his state of enlightenment. Only after several days did Qin Wentian's eyes abruptly open as he spoke in a low voice. I understand now. Instantly, numerous gazes turned to Qin Wentian, staring at him. Qin Wentian, have you found the secret of the underground palace? Xiao Lingyue's silhouette flickered as she appeared beside Qin Wentian. Her beautiful eyes involuntarily trembled. After being trapped here for half a year, one could very well imagine how anxious they were in their hearts. It was just that they had been suppressing their emotions all this while. Only when they looked at Qin Wentian did they finally see a trace of hope. Right now, a single sentence from Qin Wentian undoubtedly stirred the hearts of everyone. Their gazes all turned to Qin Wentian. Maybe, but we will only know after we try. Qin Wentian spoke, his words causing the eyes of everyone to gleam with sharpness. Go ahead then. Xiao Lingyue spoke. Qin Wentian stood up and stared at everyone as he spoke. It's somewhat difficult for me to do this alone. I hope those who cultivate in divine inscriptions can cooperate with me and light up all the divine inscriptions in the underground palace. You mean to activate all the divine inscriptions in the underground palace? Xianxing walked over and stared at Qin Wentian. Are you sure this won't cause a catastrophic disaster? I've said it before, you basically don't understand. Qin Wentian coldly glanced at Xianxing. It's up to you whether you want to believe it or not. If no one is willing to cooperate, forgive me for being powerless. You guys can think of a way to exit this place yourselves. Xianxing pointed his finger at Qin Wentian as anger gushed forth. Fine, we will do as you say. Chapter 9:11. Among the geniuses in the underground palace, the Shao sect and Twin Stars Alliance were the strongest. Xiao Lingyue supported Qin Wentian, and now that Xianxing had no objections, the others naturally wouldn't object. In addition, they all wanted to exit this place as well. This was a forbidden ground, a place where there was no danger, yet it could trap people to death. Qin Wentian was the only person who could bring them out. But even so, it was only a possibility. They could only give it a try. Divine inscriptionists come out. In addition, they must be divine inscriptionists who can see through the divine inscriptions in the underground palace. Qin Wentian spoke. He was one of them. Xianxing naturally could do it as well. After that, several more people walked out. It wasn't difficult for them to see through the divine inscriptions. They could all see through them and activate them. Right, 6 of us should be enough. Qin Wentian nodded. After that, he walked to a location and pointed to the ground. The 5 of you each choose a path and activate all the divine inscriptions on each path. Since you all can see through these divine inscriptions, you naturally know which position is the safest. As for the others, just follow the 5 of them. What about you? Xianxing stared at Qin Wentian as he asked. For this underground palace, if one were to observe it from the outside, they would discover that this is the diagram of a gigantic palm imprint. These 5 paths are the 5 fingers of the gigantic palm imprint. The place where we came from is the center of the palm. I'll be in charge of that place. Qin Wentian spoke. His words caused the eyes of everyone to flicker. Hearing Qin Wentian's words, it did seem like the center of the palm imprint. It was just that they weren't able to sense the shape of the entire underground palace. Why are you in charge of the center of the palm? Xianxing coldly asked. If you can exit this place, you can do it. Qin Wentian made an inviting gesture as a mocking light flashed in his eyes. Xianxing stared at Qin Wentian, his countenance somewhat unfriendly. He could only snort coldly. The people of the Xiao sect will follow you. Xiao Lingyue spoke to Qin Wentian. All right. Qin Wentian nodded his head. After which, he turned and walked towards the location of the palm of the underground palace. Xiao Lingyue brought the experts of the Xiao sect and followed after him. As for the other experts, they all took their positions. As divine inscriptionists, they all knew how to activate the divine inscriptions and choose a safe location. There was no need for Qin Wentian to teach them how to do this. Qin Wentian found his position, and the members of the Xiao sect followed beside him. After which he began to activate the divine imprints beneath his feet, lighting up the individual divine imprints. Qin Wentian closed his eyes. He didn't even need to use his eyes to look. In his mind, he had already inscribed the diagram of each and every divine inscription. In fact, he was already able to condense the divine inscriptions. Hence, activating these divine inscriptions wasn't a problem for him. Bit by bit, the entire underground palace started to light up, becoming more and more resplendent. Terrifying divine inscriptions flowed around the entire underground palace, as a terrifying might was faintly discernible. Once it was detonated, it was highly possible that the destructive power would be unleashed. The power of divine inscriptions is truly marvelous. These glowing lights are like different types of innate techniques. This should be what Father always said about the 10,000 techniques returning to one. No matter what, they would all be able to return to one in the end. Xiao Lingyue silently mused. Cultivating divine inscriptions would easily delay one's cultivation. Hence, the vast majority of stellar martial cultivators only focused on strength and didn't focus on cultivating divine inscriptions. However, truly powerful divine inscriptionists were all respected by others. When all the divine inscriptions in the underground palace lit up, the geniuses inclined their heads and stared at this space. Golden runic light flowed around every corner of the underground palace. No, maybe this wasn't a palace. At this moment they discovered that it was just like what Qin Wentian had said. This place was actually a gigantic palm imprint. The runic light caused the arc of the palm imprint to be revealed. It was as though a gigantic palm imprint had slammed down, causing the sealed underground palace to be formed. Can we exit just like that? Many people silently mused. Although only Qin Wentian thought of doing this, there were immortal kings who were trapped here for tens of thousands of years. There should be some among them who understood the power of divine inscriptions. Even if they didn't, given the comprehension abilities of immortal kings, it shouldn't be too difficult for them to light up this underground palace. Why didn't they find the exit? Clearly, just this alone wasn't enough. Qin Wentian's eyes were tightly shut. His will gushed out frenziedly, starting to control the flow of the runic inscriptions. Under his guidance, the runic inscriptions in the underground palace started to flow as well. At the start, Qin Wentian guided the runic inscriptions. Eventually, a terrifying might gushed forth as terrifying rumbling sounds rang out, causing the entire underground palace to tremble. He really did it. Xiao Lingyue stared at Qin Wentian, her beautiful eyes gleaming with a dazzling light. What immortal kings couldn't accomplish even after spending tens of thousands of years, Qin Wentian actually succeeded in just half a year. Although she had been anticipating this, when it really happened, she couldn't help but feel disbelief in her heart. Was the comprehension of humans really so miraculous? Immortal kings couldn't even comprehend the method to break the seal. Yet it was actually done by Qin Wentian, who was at the celestial phenomenon realm. The gigantic palm imprint started to flow frenziedly, as though Qin Wentian no longer needed to control it. Qin Wentian abruptly turned and sprinted away as he spoke, "Follow me." The countenances of Xiao Lengyue and the others flickered as their hearts tightened. They turned and followed after Qin Wentian, rushing towards the entrance they came from. That place was also a dead end. There was no exit. Boom! A terrifying beam of light abruptly shot out, gushing forth from the end of the tunnel. The entire gigantic palm imprint trembled violently before exploding apart inch by inch, and in front of them an exit seemed to have appeared. This scene caused Xiao Lengyue's heart to tremble. The group of them increased their speed, rushing towards the exit. Qin Wentian! A roar rang out. The other geniuses in the underground palace were madly rushing over. Xianxing roared in rage, his voice filled with coldness. No wonder Qin Wentian chose that location. So it turned out that it was the closest to the exit. Busy. Qin Wentian's entire person transformed into a wind rock, resembling a true wind rock as he rushed out of the exit. After that, he discovered that he had appeared in another passageway. The sounds of explosions rang out unceasingly behind him, as the sound of air being pierced rang out. Xiao Lengyue and the experts from the Xiao sect and Twin Stars Alliance all stepped into the passageway. They didn't even have the time to settle the debt with Qin Wentian. They could only stare at the passageway, feeling a chill in their hearts. Would it be another dead end? There's a trace of light. There should be a path ahead. Person exclaimed in shock. The group of them continued moving forward, and after passing through this ancient passageway, they arrived at a gigantic space. In the surroundings of this space, there were countless divine inscriptions and diagrams that were incomparably complex. Qin Wentian had no way to see through them. Earlier there was a gigantic palm imprint. Is this the interior of the body? Qin Wentian's heart trembled slightly. However, this body didn't seem to be complete. Cracks could be seen everywhere, and light shone in from the outside. There were already people rushing towards the exit, exclaiming in shock, "Is this a statue of an ancient emperor? We walked out from the body of an ancient emperor." Qin Wentian also flew out from a gigantic hole in the wall. He floated in the air and turned around to stare at the place he came out from. There was an incomparably gigantic body that resembled a statue, yet it felt so real, as though it was a real existence. Earlier, the place they came out from was the arm. Following the arm, they could see that this place seemed to be a real palace. This must be the Emperor Palace we saw. So it turns out that the underground palace we entered was actually the palm imprint of the ancient emperor. Xiao Lingyue's heart trembled. They had entered by following the arm. This was the true passageway. There's a word monument here. There must be an expert who carved his words here. An expert from the Xiao sect exclaimed in shock. The gazes of the crowd turned to the foot of the gigantic body, and indeed, there was an ancient monument there. Their silhouettes flickered as they arrived at the foot of the gigantic body, staring at the monument ahead. I heard that all the ancestors fought here, hence I specially came here to take a look. Seeing the legacy left behind by the ancestors, I can feel how strong all of you were. I can only lament that I wasn't able to be in the same generation as all of you, and was unable to fight against you all. What a pity. I can only leave your legacy here, hoping that those in the future who are fated with you all would be able to witness your glory. The words on the monument were filled with vigor and strength. With a single glance, it was as though each and every stroke contained a terrifying law energy, causing people to be able to sense how terrifying the person who carved these words was. Lament that I wasn't able to be in the same generation as all of you, and was unable to fight against you all. What a pity. Someone mumbled, feeling shocked in his heart. Since there's no signature, there's basically no need for such exaggerated words. If this is the case, how strong must the person who left this monument be? Lament that he wasn't able to fight against ancient emperors. I wonder which supreme existence of the immortal realms dared to say this. That person must have the combat prowess to be able to fight against ancient emperors. Sadly, there's no signature. We have no way to know which famous ancestor it is. Someone felt that it was a pity. Such an expert actually didn't leave his name behind. Earlier in the underground palace, there was a flame. Seems like the person who left these words was here. Is this place really sealed? Being able to trap immortal kings, why can't it trap the person who left these words behind? Qin Wentian mumbled. His gaze turned to the surroundings. This place was filled with wreckage, with traces of destruction everywhere. Only this monument in the underground palace exuded a majestic aura, and was completely undamaged. Clearly, this was something that the ancestor who left these words behind sealed the ruins of ancient emperor here. This made people sigh in admiration. The spirit of an ancient emperor wasn't something ordinary people could compare to. Not only did he not destroy this place, he even preserved it. At this moment, Qin Wentian saw many people silently leaving this place, moving towards the back of the statue. They didn't shout out like before. Clearly they had discovered something. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as he also stepped out, moving towards the back of the statue. Very swiftly, his gaze was fixed on a certain direction. Chapter 9:12. Before Qin Wentian's eyes, a blood-colored rune appeared. It was as though it was forged from fresh blood, and seemed to possess spirituality. The blood-colored rune light flowed, directly piercing into the eyes of everyone. When Qin Wentian stared at the blood-colored rune, beams of blood-colored light directly imprinted themselves into his sea of consciousness. In his sea of consciousness, a blurry blood-colored silhouette appeared, exuding an ancient aura. A rune shot out from the blood-colored light, directly entering Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. At this instant, Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently. He closed his eyes, faintly feeling that he was in an illusory space. That blurry silhouette was currently imparting the oracular chant to him. Every single word of the oracular chant was imprinted into his sea of consciousness. It was extremely difficult to understand, as though there was no way to unravel the oracular chant. Imprint. Another ancient rune imprinted itself onto Qin Wentian's heart, violently pounded. Everything in his sea of consciousness vanished without a trace. When he stared at the blood-colored rune again, it seemed as though it contained the essence of the great Tao, exuding an unfathomable might. Are these words left behind by ancient Emperor Yi? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Not only him, everyone else who saw the blood-colored rune also received the same oracular chant. However, when they opened their eyes, looks of bewilderment could be seen on their faces. To them, this oracular chant was like a heavenly book, impossible to comprehend. Xiaolingyue, Xianxing and the others were also standing here. After receiving the oracular chant, their gazes were fixated on the blood-colored rune light. Yet their minds were completely blank. This feeling was too marvelous. They felt as though they had received the essence of the great Tao. However, because they had no way to comprehend it, this essence of the great Tao was like a heavenly book that could vanish from their minds at any moment, leaving no traces at all. Vanished? How can this be? At this moment, one of the geniuses exclaimed in shock as he stared at the blood-colored rune light. The imprints in his sea of consciousness grew increasingly blurry, and very swiftly, all traces actually vanished. When he looked at the blood-colored rune again, there were no more oracular chants imprinted into his sea of consciousness. It was as though he only had a single chance. Numerous silhouettes flickered, instantly sitting cross-legged in different locations as they started to comprehend and cultivate, not allowing the oracular chant to vanish from their minds. There was a high possibility that this oracular chant was left behind by ancient Emperor Yi. If it vanished just like that, it would truly be a pity. Qin Wentian similarly found a spot and sat down cross-legged. His eyes were tightly shut as the oracular chant of the great Tao imprinted itself into his mind. His body trembled violently as rumbling sounds rang out. His blood actually started to churn frenziedly, and within his yuanfu, the divine energy formed from the divine inscriptions seethed. His demonic bloodline surged as demonic inscriptions appeared. The candlelight also flickered, and under the influence of the ancient characters, a transformation was taking place. What a powerful oracular chant! Qin Wentian's heart trembled unceasingly. He discovered that no matter how tyrannical the energy in his body was, it was gradually insufficient to sustain the circulation of this oracular chant. What a difficult oracular chant! The great Tao is formless. Is this the oracular chant for God's hand? Qin Wentian mused silently as he immersed himself in his comprehension. The ultimate art of ancient Emperor Yi was lost in the immortal realms. After ancient Emperor Yi, no one else managed to comprehend God's hand. No one knew how to cultivate God's hand. But this oracular chant that was as profound as the great Tao might have been left behind by ancient Emperor Yi. This also indicated that there was a high possibility that this was the oracular chant for God's hand. The geniuses in the ancient palace all saw the oracular chant. After that, they all started to cultivate it. But not long after, many geniuses opened their eyes as their expressions were extremely unsightly to behold. The oracular chant that was imprinted into their sea of consciousness gradually vanished without a trace. It was like the oracular chant of the great Tao had never existed before. Ancient Emperor Yi, what did you leave behind exactly? Someone stared at the gigantic statue as he asked, only to see some geniuses stepping out, moving towards the interior of the statue, wanting to see if there were any good fortune within. However, they could only see countless complicated divine inscriptions. They had no way to comprehend them. There were several descendants of immortal emperors who could sense how powerful the oracular chant was. In fact, when the oracular chant appeared, a humming sound could be heard from their bodies as a huge transformation occurred. But as time flowed by, this imprint grew fainter and fainter until it completely vanished. How can this be? Some geniuses opened their eyes, staring at this ancient palace. Other than the statue, there was only a broken ground, completely empty. Was this the Emperor Palace they had always wanted to enter? The Emperor Palace they almost paid the price of their lives to enter? This place was desolate, there was nothing here. At the end, Xian Xing and Xiaoling Yue opened their eyes as well. Their countenances were extremely unsightly to behold. This was especially so for Xian Xing. He could faintly sense that he had comprehended a trace of profoundness. This oracular chant might very well be the ultimate art of ancient Emperor Yi, the God's hand imprint. However, he had no way to comprehend it. Standing up, Xian Xing glanced at the Emperor Palace. The only valuable thing here was the gigantic statue itself. Just a lousy remnant like this, what qualifications does it have to be worthy for an immortal emperor to create an Emperor Palace for it? This is nothing but a scam. Xian Xing angrily spoke. They almost fell into despair, but in the end, they didn't gain anything. His silhouette flickered as Xian Xing exited the Emperor Palace. If he wanted to leave, no one would dare to obstruct him. When Xian Xing opened the gates of the Emperor Palace, an instant later, a violent gust of wind gushed forth. The ancient divine inscriptions pathway ahead of him was instantly flattened, as the boundless divine inscriptions were instantly flattened. At this moment, in front of the Emperor Palace, there were still many geniuses gathered there, including those from the Twin Stars Alliance. Naturally, there were also many experts from the Xiao sect. Even now, it was still unknown if Xian Xing and Xiaoling Yue were still alive or dead. But at this moment, a beam of light cascaded over. All the divine inscriptions vanished as the ancient pathway appeared. Glancing ahead, they saw the gates of the Emperor Palace open as a figure stood there. It was none other than Xian Xing. The hearts of everyone trembled. Xian Xing is fine. He actually managed to enter the Emperor Palace. Xian Xing is as expected of a genius, one of the Twin Stars Alliance, the son of the Xian Emperor. He actually managed to do it, entering the Emperor Palace. Let's go, let's head to the Emperor Palace to take a look. I wonder if there's any good fortune left. The experts here all sped towards the Emperor Palace while sighing in admiration at how powerful Xian Xing was in their hearts. Among the crowd, Zi Qingxian and Jun Mingqian were there as well. There were many experts behind them, including an extremely powerful young genius. He was none other than the strongest genius of the Xiao sect other than Xiaoling Yue. Ranked number 12 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Greedwolf. He stared in the direction of the Emperor Palace, his eyes gleaming with sharpness when he saw Xian Xing. He then spoke in a low voice, "You guys pray that Ling Yue is fine." After speaking, his silhouette flickered as he sped towards the Emperor Palace. Little Rascal, who was in Zi Qingshuan's embrace, dashed out. Zi Qingxian and Jun Mingqian immediately followed after. Seeing the excited look on Little Rascal's face, Qin Wentian should be fine. Maybe, he was still in the Emperor Palace. An instant later, More and more experts rushed into the Emperor Palace. When they saw the statue, their hearts trembled. Those from the Twin Stars Alliance all headed towards Xianxing, while those from the Xiao sect stared at Xiao Lengyue. As for the other geniuses in the City of Ancient Emperors, they were all staring at the Emperor Palace. In a short period of time, the Emperor Palace was filled with people. Very swiftly, they discovered the words inscribed on the monument as well as the blood-colored runes behind the statue. Their hearts trembled, knowing that this was the work of the ancient emperor. Little Rascal directly leapt towards Qin Wentian. Seeing that Qin Wentian was in the midst of cultivation, he could only lie down at Qin Wentian's feet and quietly lay there. Senior brother Qin, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian also came, but they didn't disturb Qin Wentian's cultivation. Lengyue, are you alright? Greedwolf walked towards Xiao Lengyue. As a supreme genius ranked number 12 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Greedwolf actually chose to follow Xiao Lengyue and join the Xiao sect. Everyone knew that he wanted to woo Xiao Lengyue. I'm fine, I was only trapped here for half a year. It was scary but not dangerous. Xiao Lengyue furrowed her brows. During this half a year, she had no harvest at all, causing her to feel extremely uncomfortable in her heart. Greedwolf noticed Xiao Lengyue's depressed mood. He turned his gaze towards Jun Mengchen and saw Qin Wentian sitting there. A cold light flickered in his eyes as he spoke. Lengyue, I heard that you were brought in by a newcomer of the Xiao sect. How can you trust him so easily? At this moment, Qin Wentian seemed to sense something. He slowly opened his eyes and coincidentally saw the coldness in Greedwolf's eyes as he furrowed his brows. Senior brother, the people of the Xiao sect don't even treat us as friends. After you disappeared with Xiao Lengyue, we were immediately monitored by the people of the Xiao sect. This Greedwolf even said that if something happened to Xiao Lengyue, he wants me and senior sister Qingxian to accompany her in death. Jun Mengchen felt rage in his heart as he transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian. A cold light flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. Although he was the one who brought Xiao Lengyue into the underground palace back then, if it wasn't for Xiao Lengyue willingly wanting to take the risk, who would be able to force her? This was originally a gamble. If there was danger, it was one thing for them to vent their anger on him alone. But now, even Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian were being implicated. This made him extremely unhappy in his heart. Mengchen, let's find an opportunity to leave the Xiao sect. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice. Jun Mengchen nodded his head lightly. He had no sense of belonging to the Xiao sect. Although Xiao Lengyue was beautiful, she was extremely scheming. The geniuses around her were as many as the clouds and all of them were males. There was no doubt that she was making use of them even though these geniuses were willing to do so. Now, it's about time to talk about what you obtained in the underground palace. At this moment, Xianxing's gaze once again turned to Qin Wentian. He only saw a group of people walking towards Qin Wentian, radiating coldness, as though they still weren't willing to give up. As the sound of Xianxing's voice faded, several geniuses turned their gazes onto Qin Wentian. With regards to the secret of the underground palace which no one could decipher, it was actually solved by Qin Wentian. Everyone was still filled with doubt, thinking that Qin Wentian had obtained something. Chapter 9:13. Qin Wentian calmly glanced at Xianxing. No matter what I obtained, it's already mine. What do you want? Right now, Qin Wentian couldn't be bothered to explain anything. No matter how he explained, these people wouldn't believe him. They would only believe what they wanted to know. Xianxing walked forward and smiled. If you know what's good for you, it's best if you hand over the treasure you obtained. Maybe I can spare you. Many geniuses from the Twin Stars Alliance followed behind Xianxing, all of them exuding tyrannical auras. Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen both had cold looks on their faces when they saw this scene. Ever since they entered the City of Ancient Emperors, they had always been under the control of others. Such a feeling was truly stifling. If they knew this would happen, they would have cultivated to the 8th level or 9th level of celestial phenomenon before entering the City of Ancient Emperors. At that time, these people would understand how powerful disciples from the heavenly talisman realm were. Xianxing, what do you want? Only to see at this moment Xiao Lengyue brought her people over. Similarly, the geniuses here were as common as the clouds, and it seemed as though they were about to confront the people from the Twin Stars Alliance. Xiao Lingyue, if he doesn't give an explanation for this matter, I'm afraid this matter won't be resolved so easily. Xianxing glanced at Xiao Lingyue and her group. Is that so? He's a member of my Xiao Gate. Whatever he obtains is his own fortune. What right does your Xianxing have to interfere? If you really want to touch him, my Xiao Gate is not afraid of your Twin Stars alliance. We can even go to war. We can even start a war. Xiao Lingyue coldly spoke, her words causing those geniuses who entered later to scratch their heads in confusion. As expected of the number 6 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xiao Lingyue actually wanted to start a war against the Twin Stars alliance for the sake of Qin Wentian? The geniuses from both sides stared at each other, the atmosphere extremely tense. Does your Xiao sect really want to start a war against my Twin Stars alliance for the sake of him? Xianxing heavily asked. Yes. Xiao Lingyue didn't hesitate. Very good. Xianxing laughed uproariously. He stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. Brat, consider yourself lucky today. However, since we are in the city of ancient emperors, there's no need to worry about you escaping. I truly want to see how the Xiao sect will protect you. Let's go. As the sound of his voice faded, Xianxing waved his hand and led the crowd away. Qin Wentian's gaze was fixed on Xianxing from the start to the end. His countenance was cold and he was already prepared for battle. However, this battle that should have erupted eventually calmed down because of Xiao Lingyue's interference. Qin Wentian also suppressed the flames of anger in his heart. The others would gradually forget the oracular chant, but he didn't. He felt that he would be able to cultivate it. But now wasn't the time for him to fight. Before this, during his cultivation, Qin Wentian felt an extremely profound feeling. The melody of the great Tao echoed in his mind, and he faintly sensed that this oracular chant might really be something left behind by ancient Emperor Yi. Also, there was a high possibility that this oracular chant contained the inheritance of ancient Emperor Yi's ultimate art, God's hand. However, Qin Wentian could clearly sense the profoundness within. If he could cultivate it, his combat prowess would soar to another level. Now he had to endure it for a little longer. The geniuses in the city of ancient emperors were as common as the clouds, and descendants of immortal kings and emperors could be found everywhere. However, he would eventually reveal his true glory. After a few more years, the people in the city of ancient emperors wouldn't treat him like this anymore. No one would dare to do this to him, and they would finally know what sort of character Qin Wentian was. Many thanks. Qin Wentian smiled at Xiao Lingyue. It's what I should do. Xiao Lingyue revealed a profound smile to Qin Wentian. Since we are all members of the Xiao sect, we should share weal and woe together. Share weal and woe together? Qin Wentian laughed in his heart, but he didn't say anything more. Let's go, let's return to the Xiao sect together. If there are still people who wish to comprehend the inscriptions, you can continue staying here. Xiao Lingyue was somewhat disappointed with this trip. She had wasted half a year's time and was trapped in the underground palace. During that period of time, the pressure in her heart was extremely great. It wasn't easy for her to exit the palace and even saw the oracular chant. However, she didn't manage to comprehend anything from it. To Xiao Lingyue, this was a great failure. There was no meaning in staying here any longer. She had no way to comprehend the divine inscriptions within the statue. She might as well leave. Qin Wentian, do you still want to stay here to comprehend it? Xiao Lingyue asked. Nope, this oracular chant is too profound and I have no way to comprehend it. Let's go. Qin Wentian smiled and stood up. Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen both glanced at Qin Wentian only to hear Qin Wentian speaking to them. There's an oracular chant behind the statue. You guys can give it a try, but don't have too much hope. Right. Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen nodded their heads as they walked towards the statue. Qin Wentian then followed Xiao Lingyue out of the Emperor Palace. More and more experts were still gathering here. Not far away, a silhouette exuded a magnificence that exuded magnificence through the generations, not losing out to Xiao Lingyue at all. In fact, her aura even surpassed Xiao Lingyue's. This person was none other than a female. She was clad in a phoenix robe, yet her aura was incomparably cold. Her figure was exquisite, her skin as white as jade, and the expression on her face was like a 10,000-year-old glacier. Upon seeing this female, Xiao Lingyue's footsteps halted slightly. However, that female seemed to not have noticed Xiao Lingyue and directly walked past her. Such coldness caused people to not dare to look directly at her. Many gazes turned to this female, their gazes filled with admiration. These people were all descendants of immortal kings and emperors. Ordinary females wouldn't be able to enter their eyes. However, this female before them was so lofty that they couldn't even hope to reach her. If they could marry her, it would be sufficient. Their glory would be incomparable, and all the geniuses in the city of ancient emperors would be envious of them. That female also walked past Qin Wentian. A unique aura gushed over, refreshing the heart and mind. This female is extraordinary. Even Xiao Lingyue halted. It should be her. Qin Wentian silently mused. There were 3 most outstanding females in the city of ancient emperors. One of them was Xiao Lingyue. The other was Qing Er, whom he had been searching for. And the last female was the one with the highest ranking, ranked number 3 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Her name was Nam Huang Yunxi. This should be her. Xiao Lingyue paused for a moment, but when she saw that Nam Huang Yunxi wasn't even looking at her, she couldn't help but have an unhappy expression on her face. She lifted her foot and continued on her way, returning to the Xiao sect. The group of them soared through the air with incredible speed. Beside Qin Wentian, a figure appeared. It was none other than a genius of the Xiao sect, Li Yu, an expert ranked within the top 100 of the Immortal Ascension rankings. He stood beside Qin Wentian and spoke in a low voice. "Many thanks." Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. He inclined his head and glanced at Li Yu. He naturally understood why Li Yu said thanks. It was just that from the time he brought them out of the underground palace until now, Li Yu was the first and only person to thank him. Smiling at Li Yu, Qin Wentian nodded his head and didn't say anything more. After returning to the Xiao sect, the geniuses all returned to their own places. Qin Wentian also returned to his courtyard and continued his cultivation. However, he didn't cultivate for long before he opened his eyes and spoke. "Come in." The sound of footsteps rang out as Xiao Lingyue's beautiful silhouette appeared. Xiao Lingyue had changed into a long green dress, exuding an incomparable charm and beauty akin to a fairy. She smiled sweetly at Qin Wentian as she spoke. "Why? You've just returned and you want to continue cultivating?" "I know my cultivation base is too low, and I would be threatened by others from time to time. I naturally have to work harder." Qin Wentian laughed. He was naturally referring to the things that had happened during this period of time. "You don't have to be so calculative. Since you've joined the Xiao sect, I will naturally take care of you. In addition, I've already treated you as a friend." Xiao Lingyue smiled. Her figure and countenance caused Qin Wentian to silently praise her in his heart. This Xiao Lingyue was truly a stunner. Being able to have such a beauty as a friend, I'm truly envious. Qin Wentian laughed. Xiao Lingyue walked to a spot not far away from Qin Wentian and actually sat down right in front of Qin Wentian. Her beauty was so close that it was sufficient to cause the heartbeats of others to quicken. "Your talent is extraordinary, and you also have a high attainment in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. In the future, you would definitely have extraordinary accomplishments. Within the top 100 of the Immortal Ascension rankings, there would definitely be a place for you or even higher." Xiao Lingyue smiled. "Your comprehension ability is also extraordinary. Earlier in the Emperor Palace, none of us could comprehend the oracular chant and gradually forgot about it. Only you continued to comprehend it. You should have discovered something, right? This oracular chant is extraordinary. I've indeed comprehended it." Qin Wentian nodded. Right now his heart was like a mirror. This was what Xiao Lingyue truly wanted to ask. Could this oracular chant have something to do with the ancient emperor's secret art? Xiao Lingyue asked. Maybe. Qin Wentian didn't deny anything. Among all the geniuses, only you could comprehend this oracular chant. This should have something to do with what you encountered in the underground palace earlier. Also, you were the one who unraveled the mysteries within the oracular chant. Most probably, this is the crux to why you were able to comprehend this oracular chant. Xiao Lingyue's beautiful eyes stared straight into Qin Wentian's eyes. Qin Wentian nodded. He didn't deny it. Xiao Lingyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. Her red lips were pursed together, causing the hearts of men to tremble. She then turned to Qin Wentian and asked in a gentle voice, "Qin Wentian, can you teach me?" This was a world-shocking art of the ancient emperor's secret art, an ultimate art that had been lost in time. Xiao Lingyue didn't mind using a honey trap just to obtain it. How could Qin Wentian not see through her intentions? However, he still shook his head and replied, "Sect leader, you are right. This oracular chant has a very high possibility that it has something to do with the underground palace. However, it's precisely because I unraveled the mysteries within the oracular chant that I was able to faintly sense the power contained within. However, I'm still unable to comprehend it. And just like what you said, I'm the only one who managed to unravel the mysteries within the oracular chant. Hence this is the ending. Other than me, there's no one else who could comprehend the oracular chant at all. This is a certainty, and those who came after me wouldn't be able to do so as well. In addition, I have no way to teach you." Xiao Lingyue's countenance changed when she heard Qin Wentian's words. However, she instantly regained her composure and smiled. "There's only the two of us. Why must you hide this from me? You should have obtained something in the underground palace, right?" When Qin Wentian heard this, the last trace of hope he had for Xiao Lingyue was completely shattered. Before this, she had already asked Qin Wentian several times, and Qin Wentian had clearly replied that it was merely a map. Now that she asked this question again, it was clear that in Xiao Lingyue's heart, her thoughts were the same as Xian Xing's. There was no difference between the two of them. "If I say I didn't, would you believe me?" Qin Wentian stared at Xiao Lingyue's beautiful eyes. He could see the smile in Xiao Lingyue's eyes slowly vanishing. Chapter 9:14. When Xiao Lingyue asked that question to Qin Wentian, it already indicated that she didn't trust Qin Wentian at all. Hence, Qin Wentian didn't reply directly, choosing to say, "If I say I didn't, would you believe me?" He knew that Xiao Lingyue wouldn't believe him. In that case, no matter what, the ending was already determined. Staring at Xiao Lingyue's countenance gradually turning cold, Qin Wentian felt a chill in his heart. These geniuses were very intelligent, but they were too intelligent. Xiao Lingyue deduced that the reason why he could comprehend the blood-colored runic inscriptions was related to the underground palace, and was certain that he had obtained something. Because regardless of her or Xian Xing, neither of them felt that Qin Wentian had the talent to surpass all the geniuses trapped in the underground palace. Based on what qualifications did he have to comprehend the secret behind the blood-colored runic inscriptions? "Qin Wentian, I treated you well, right?" Xiao Lingyue asked. The smile on her face was extremely cold. "What do you mean by treating me well?" Qin Wentian saw the change in Xiao Lingyue's attitude. His tone also turned cold. "When you were surrounded by the God Extermination Palace led by Ji Lanshan, it was me who asked you to join the Xiao sect. Ji Lanshan took the initiative to retreat, and no longer dared to find trouble with you. You brought us into the underground palace, causing many people to feel resentment towards you, but I didn't blame you at all. Even when Xian Xing wanted to deal with you, I was the one who stopped him. Is all of this still not enough?" Xiao Lingyue spoke. "I was surrounded by Ji Lanshan, you've already seen it for yourself. He couldn't do anything to me at all. Regardless of whether I joined the Xiao sect or not, I have no fear of Ji Lanshan. You asked me to join because you needed my divine inscriptions. You wanted me to bring you to the Emperor Palace, and I did it within half a year. Not only did I rescue all of you from the underground palace, I even brought you into the depths of the Emperor Palace." Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he slowly spoke, "Because in the Emperor Palace, you didn't obtain anything. This is why you would say such words. If you obtained an ancient emperor treasure or an inheritance, would you still say such words? If before you entered the Emperor Palace, and someone told you that I could bring you in within half a year, would you reject? I'm afraid you'll be deeply grateful. If you gain something, it's your own wisdom. If you don't gain anything, you shift all the blame to me, Qin Wentian. Is this the way of a sect leader?" Qin Wentian said coldly. "As for Xian Xing, is there any difference between the reason why Xian Xing wants to deal with me and what sovereign wants to do now?" Xiao Lingyue stared at Qin Wentian. After which, she smiled and stood up. "Qin Wentian, you're very good. I'll give you some time to consider it." With that, she flicked her sleeves and left the place. Qin Wentian sent Xiao Lingyue off with his gaze. His countenance was as calm as ever, with no changes at all. He closed his eyes and continued his cultivation, comprehending the incomparably mystical energy. Being in the city of ancient emperors, he understood that raising his strength as soon as possible was the most important thing. The courtyard was incomparably quiet. Qin Wentian had no distractions in his heart until Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen came back to look for him. When he saw Jun Mengchen walking over, his face was filled with rage. Qin Wentian smiled at him. "What's wrong?" "Senior brother, they're monitoring us." Jun Mengchen angrily spoke. "That's normal." Qin Wentian laughed. "For the next period of time, I intend to go into closed-door seclusion and cultivate here in this courtyard. You guys should also work hard in your cultivation as well. Before the Shao sect makes their move against us, let them monitor us. Don't clash with them." Jun Mengchen started. "Aren't we going to leave the Shao sect directly? Right now, it's no longer a situation where we can leave just because we want to. Xiao Lingyue thinks that I've obtained something she wanted, the ancient inheritance. But in truth, that's something that needs to be comprehended by oneself. She couldn't comprehend it herself, so she assumed that I've obtained some other treasures. There's no way for her to explain this. For a period of time, I'll be under their surveillance and my movements will be restricted. Hence, I might as well go into closed-door seclusion." Qin Wentian smiled. "With regards to you guys, their restrictions shouldn't be too strict. As long as I don't leave, I don't know when they would act against us. I understand. Before they act, we just have to endure and not clash with them. We'll do our best to delay and raise our strength." Jun Mengchen spoke. "Yeah, Mengchen, I know it's hard on you. You have an impulsive personality, but in the city of ancient emperors, we have no choice but to endure." Qin Wentian spoke. "Don't worry, senior brother, I understand. I can only blame myself for being too weak. If I was at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, why would I fear them? We can just fight." Jun Mengchen angrily spoke. "Okay, let's go and cultivate." Zi Qingxian could understand Qin Wentian's urgency to raise his strength. She was very clear what sort of character Qin Wentian was. If one truly angered him, he would dare to do anything. Even in front of the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor, his arrogance towered up into the heavens. But given his personality, he could also endure things that ordinary people couldn't. Right now, Qin Wentian was most definitely in desperate need of time. Senior brother, you should cultivate well. We will be leaving too." Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian left. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath and entered a meditative state once more. Half a month later, Xiao Lingyue came to look for Qin Wentian again. This time around she directly asked, "Have you made up your mind?" Qin Wentian stared at Xiao Lingyue, smiling as he shook his head. "I've already told you before. If you want to cultivate the oracular chant within the blood-colored runes, you have to comprehend the divine inscriptions in the underground palace first. However, it's impossible for you to do so. Even if I wanted to teach you, it's impossible for me to do so." Xiao Lingyue frowned as she coldly spoke. "Qin Wentian, I've already given you enough face. Many thanks." Qin Wentian smiled. Xiao Lingyue didn't say anything more. She turned and departed, leaving behind an icy glare. In the next few months, Xiao Lingyue came to visit several times. Every time she visited, her actions were extremely direct and her attitude grew colder and colder. Xiao Lingyue also discovered that Qin Wentian seemed to be extremely patient. He didn't say that he wanted to leave the Shao sect and just quietly stayed in his courtyard to cultivate, as though nothing had happened. As for Qin Wentian's two companions, they would sometimes cultivate in the Shao sect, and sometimes they would leave the city of ancient emperors to temper themselves. She had sent people from the Shao sect to monitor them, but they didn't seem to have any intentions of escaping. It seemed as though they were planning on wasting time with her. Qin Wentian and his companions knew their own limits and knew that it was impossible for them to forcefully leave the Shao sect. They were merely trying to infuriate her. Finally, Xiao Lingyue's patience reached its limit. Today, experts from the Shao sect came to Qin Wentian's courtyard and directly barged in. However, Xiao Lingyue wasn't there. The person in the lead was none other than the second strongest expert of the Shao sect, Greedwolf. The auras of this group were extremely terrifying. Their might bore down on Qin Wentian. This was especially so for Greedwolf. His countenance was ice cold, filled with killing intent. Qin Wentian opened his eyes and stared at him only to hear Greedwolf coldly speaking. "Qin Wentian, You brought Lingyue into the underground palace and were trapped there for half a year. Lingyue still protected you, or you would have long since fallen into the hands of Xian Xing. In fact, even when people from the Twin Stars Alliance came to ask for you, Lingyue still refused to hand you over. Lingyue's heart is kind. She tolerated you time and time again. I can't be bothered to waste my breath on you. Within 7 days, if you don't hand over the secret manual, I will expel you from the Shao sect. If you aren't a disciple of the Shao sect, don't blame us for being impolite to you. After speaking, Greed Wolf blasted out with his palm. Let's go. Greed Wolf waved his hands. The other experts of the Shao sect all stomped on the ground as the sounds of destruction rang out. Their eyes coldly stared at Qin Wentian as they departed together. After Greed Wolf and the others left, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian came over. Upon seeing Qin Wentian sitting there, Jun Mengchen couldn't help but ask, "Senior brother Qin, they are truly too impudent." Qin Wentian's countenance was as calm as ever. He glanced at Jun Mengchen as he smiled. 7 days? Just bear with it for a few more days before we leave the Shao sect. Okay, senior brother. I will cultivate here and accompany you. Jun Mengchen nodded. Qin Wentian felt warmth in his heart as he smiled and nodded his head. Zi Qingxian also stayed behind, cultivating in this dilapidated place. 5 days later, a violent aura gushed forth, terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian stood at the side, only to see Jun Mengchen radiating boundless astral light as his constellation appeared. Rumbling sounds rang out from his body as an ancient aura gushed forth, akin to a primordial beast. The rumbling sounds continued unceasingly, echoing far and wide. To think that Mengchen would catch up to us so soon. I'm really happy for him. A smile appeared in Qin Wentian's eyes. He was very happy. This was the only thing that could make him feel carefree during this period of time. Zi Qingxian smiled and nodded. After that, she glanced at Qin Wentian, feeling a sense of inferiority in her heart. The first time they met, her cultivation base was the highest. But now, Qin Wentian and Jun Mengchen were both at the same level as her. In terms of combat prowess, she would be the weakest. The two beside her were both supreme geniuses. If she was beside them, she would only dim in comparison. The sound of air breaking rang out. Many experts of the Shao sect turned their gazes over. Upon seeing that it was Jun Mengchen who broke through, many of them crossed their arms in front of their chests as they laughed coldly. A 6th level ascendant after breaking through, he would only be at the 7th level. In the Shao sect, this level of cultivation truly couldn't be considered anything. There are still 2 more days for you to consider. Don't be so shameless when we give you face. An expert from the Shao sect glanced over as he spoke. Among the crowd, Liu silently watched everything. He also saw Xiao Lingyue, who was far away, yet his interest was waning. His silhouette flickered as he appeared before Xiao Lingyue and called out, "Lingyue, what's the matter?" Xiao Lingyue stared at Liu as she asked, "I've accompanied you for quite some time in the Shao sect, and I'm quite happy with it. But now I wish to roam the city of ancient emperors alone. From now on I will no longer be part of the Shao sect. Take care." Liu spoke to Xiao Lingyue, his words causing Xiao Lingyue's countenance to change. "Liu, the Shao sect needs you. The Shao sect is one of the top 3 powers in the city of ancient emperors. You are also ranked number 6 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Having one more wouldn't make a difference. Farewell." Liu bowed slightly, after which, his silhouette flickered as he directly departed. Xiao Lingyue stared at Liu's back as an unnatural expression appeared on her face. Liu actually left the Shao sect at this moment? Was he unhappy with her? Chapter 9:15. Liu's departure caused Xiao Lingyue to be in an extremely bad mood. Although the Shao sect was powerful, it was also because there were many geniuses in the city of ancient emperors. Liu, as a genius ranked within the top 100 of the Immortal Ascension rankings, was sufficient to establish a power of his own. Yet he chose to follow her. He was an extremely important person to her. Because of a genius like Liu, Xiao Lingyue was able to make the Shao sect stronger. But now Liu had actually left. From Liu's eyes, Xiao Lingyue could see a trace of disappointment. With regards to Liu's personality, she understood him a little. He was a cheerful and optimistic person, carefree and carefree. Although he was somewhat frivolous, he was an upright person. He joined the Xiao sect purely because of her, Xiao Lingyue's charm. Now that he left, it was also because her charm no longer existed in his heart. Xiao Lingyue was an intelligent person. Recently, she had only done one thing, and that was to target Qin Wentian. Li Yu might have left because he was unhappy with her. However, Xiao Lingyue didn't feel that she had done anything wrong. She had to obtain the inheritance of ancient Emperor Yi no matter what. If she could obtain the ultimate art, God's hand, it wouldn't merely be a temporary boost to her strength. It would accompany her for the rest of her life, and her combat prowess would forever be a step ahead of others. At this moment, in the cultivation ground of Qin Wentian's courtyard, Jun Mengchen opened his eyes as sharpness gleamed within. Qin Wentian smiled. Mengchen, congratulations. Jun Mengchen stretched his body, feeling extremely carefree. He then replied, still not enough. I'm only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon. Let's take it step by step. Cultivation isn't something that can be accomplished in a single leap. Right now, the three of us are already at the same level. Qin Wentian laughed. After that, he spoke, let's go out for a walk. Go out for a walk? Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen both turned their gazes to Qin Wentian. There were only 2 days left to the deadline given by the Xiao sect. If Qin Wentian wanted to go out for a walk now, it wouldn't be so simple. It's time to leave. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to the two of them. The two of them didn't say anything. They merely exchanged glances and nodded in their hearts. Let's go. Qin Wentian turned and stepped into the air, heading towards the exit of the Xiao clan. However, at this moment, a heaven chosen of the Xiao clan appeared in front of Qin Wentian, blocking his path. Where are you going? Qin Wentian frowned slightly and said, what? Do I lose my freedom after joining the Xiao clan? Can't I even go out to relax? In 2 days it will be the deadline. It won't be too late to go out then. That person shouted coldly. Many experts of the Xiao clan flew into the sky to stop Qin Wentian. But I want to leave right now. If the Xiao clan even restricts my freedom, then there's no need to think about it for another 2 days. I'll leave the Xiao clan right now. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. That expert wanted to say more, but Xiao Lingyue only spoke, let him out. Xiao Lingyue slowly walked over, causing the gazes of everyone to turn to her. She then spoke, Qin Wentian, there's no problem for you to go out to relax. But you have to think this through. The people of the Twin Stars Alliance are still looking for you. If Xianxing captures you, he wouldn't be as nice as I am. That's my problem. There's no need for sect leader to worry about it. Qin Wentian replied. Fine, you can leave then. Xiao Lingyue coldly laughed. Qin Wentian and the other two stepped out, while the people of the Xiao clan stood at their original location, coldly watching as Qin Wentian and the others left. After Qin Wentian stepped out of the Xiao clan, Xiao Lingyue's silhouette flickered as the experts of the Xiao clan followed after her. I knew it wouldn't be so easy. Jun Mengchen coldly laughed when he sensed the experts chasing after them. Xiao Lingyue is here as well, and so is Greedwolf. He's ranked number 12 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, and is also the person Xiao Lingyue trusts the most in the Xiao sect. Zi Qingxian spoke in a low voice. This group of experts was extremely powerful. When I break through to the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, the first person I want to kill is none other than Greedwolf. Before this, when senior brother Qin and the others were still in the Emperor Palace, Greedwolf was extremely rude to us, spying on us and even threatened us. Jun Mengchen unhappily spoke. He wasn't in a hurry. Although Greedwolf was at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, many geniuses would stay at the 9th level for a long period of time because there was still a heavenly moat before them. The immortal realm. It wasn't so easy to step into the immortal realm in a single step. There were many 9th level ascendants who were stuck at this level for hundreds of years. For those with weaker talent, they might never be able to step into the immortal realm in their entire lives. However, there shouldn't be many of such people in the city of ancient emperors. After all the geniuses at the very peak of the immortal realms were gathered here. The speed of Qin Wentian and the other two was extremely fast. However, the experts of the Xiao sect were all geniuses. They followed closely behind them, and it was basically impossible for them to shake them off. The experts in the city of ancient emperors all had expressions of interest on their faces when they saw this scene. That female was incomparably beautiful. It was actually Xiao Lingyue. She led the experts of the Xiao sect in pursuit of the three people in front of them, but they had no idea what their identities were. I heard that it's Qin Wentian. Recently he's quite famous. Even Xian Xing of the Twin Stars Alliance wants to capture him. It's rumored that back then, it was precisely because of him that they were able to enter the Emperor Palace. There were also people who heard stories about Qin Wentian. Evidently, in the city of ancient emperors, Qin Wentian was quite famous as well. There were countless geniuses in the city of ancient emperors, and many of them were paying attention to the situation here. And at this moment, Qin Wentian and the other two suddenly halted their steps, no longer moving forward. Xiao Lingyue and the others halted as well, staring at the situation ahead. At this moment, Xiao Lingyue saw a group of figures appearing from afar. Her beautiful eyes flashed with interest. It was actually people she was familiar with. The first time she met Qin Wentian was being pursued by these people. At this moment, the ones who appeared before Qin Wentian and the others were none other than Ji Lanshan and the other experts from the God Extermination Palace. Truly, enemies often cross paths. Ji Lanshan stood in the air, coldly staring at Qin Wentian and the other two. After which, he coldly laughed. What a coincidence. I heard that the people of the Twin Stars Alliance are here to capture you. Also, the people of the Xiao sect don't seem to be very fond of you. What does that have to do with you? Qin Wentian asked. You can't have forgotten what happened back then so quickly, right? Ji Lanshan spoke with cold arrogance. His gaze turned to Xiao Lingyue as he spoke. Sect leader Xiao, I have some grudges I want to settle with him. Sect leader Xiao, you won't interfere, right? Xiao Lingyue coldly laughed. She stepped forward, sandwiching Qin Wentian and the other two in the middle. Xiao Lingyue then spoke. Qin Wentian doesn't seem to want to admit that he received the protection of the Xiao sect. Who would have thought that he would meet you here so quickly, Ji Lanshan? In that case, I really want to ask Qin Wentian, what is your attitude now? I don't understand what sect leader means. Qin Wentian calmly replied. Are you pretending to be dumb? Greedwolf coldly snorted. The Xiao sect protected your safety and protected your life, yet you actually enjoyed the benefits alone, ignoring the benefits of the Xiao sect. Right now, let me ask you again. Do you agree to what Lingyue said? What if I say no? Qin Wentian replied. In that case, my Xiao sect will expel you from our sect. You aren't worthy to be a disciple of our Xiao sect. Your life and death has nothing to do with our Xiao sect. Xiao Lingyue coldly spoke. It was as though she wanted to use this opportunity to deal a heavy blow to Qin Wentian. If he continued to be obstinate, she believed that with so many experts from the God Extermination Palace, they wouldn't give him any more chances. It was as though they were cooperating with Xiao Lingyue's words. The experts from the God Extermination Palace all stepped out, directly surrounding Qin Wentian and the two others. Ji Lanshan even released his terrifying constellation, causing 1,000 talismans to glow resplendently. Qin Wentian coldly laughed as he stared at Xiao Lingyue. What a good Xiao sect. For the sake of seizing the treasures of the members of your sect, you can be said to be unscrupulous. As for the so-called expulsion, when have I, Qin Wentian, cared? From now onwards, I, Qin Wentian, and the two others no longer have any relationship with the Xiao sect. Impudent. A fearsome aura gushed forth from Greedwolf, yet Xiao Lingyue waved her hands. I want to see how long you can be arrogant for. Qin Wentian. Ji Lanshan roared. Back then you seized the interspatial rings of a disciple of my God Extermination Palace, and only managed to escape with the protection of the Xiao sect. Have you ever thought that there would be a day like this? Do you have any face? A mere character ranked below 300th in the Immortal Ascension rankings? You, Ji Lanshan, aren't qualified to speak to me in this manner. You are 2 levels higher than me, yet you couldn't do anything to me back then. Let alone today, in front of me, you don't even have the qualifications to be called a Heaven's Chosen. The so-called descendant of an immortal emperor is nothing but a joke. Qin Wentian arrogantly spoke. At this moment, he was completely different from the low profile he was when he was in the Xiao sect. His arrogance towered up into the sky, causing the eyes of the geniuses in the surroundings to gleam with the divine light. What qualifications did this fellow have exactly? He actually dared to be so disrespectful to the experts of the Shao sect and even wanted to oppose Jilanshan? Boasting shamelessly. Do you think you still have a chance to inscribe divine inscriptions today? Jilanshan's 1,000 talismans constellation erupted forth violently. At the same time, he circulated the 1,000 talismans immortal tome, causing an unexcelled might to radiate from him. There's no need for me to inscribe divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian laughed. He stepped out and howled in a frenzy. Thunderous rumbling sounds echoed out as a resplendent light illuminated the sky. His entire body shone with fiend god light as his body expanded to a size of 10 meters, resembling a divinity, unexcelled in the world. It doesn't mean that one's strength is strong. An expert from the God Extermination Palace coldly snorted. After that, the experts from the God Extermination Palace all unleashed their constellations, wanting to suppress Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian similarly released his constellation as violet gold light flashed. He stretched out his palms and in an instant boundless runic light circulated around his palms. At this instant Qin Wentian's palms turned violet gold in color, exuding an unexcelled might. Qin Wentian chanted a few incantations as his entire body glowed with a brilliant light, as though he was undergoing a transformation. His palms became even more resplendent, as though they were no longer Qin Wentian's palms, but the hands of God instead. Xiao Lingyue's eyes gleamed with sharpness when she saw this scene. She stared fixedly at Qin Wentian's transformed palms. Qin Wentian's entire body radiated a divine glow. At this moment, an expert from the God Extermination Palace had already rushed out, slashing out a saber strike at Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian merely lifted his palms and blasted out. That gigantic palm that resembled God's hand blasted out, directly shattering the saber light. A palm imprint blasted out with enough power to pluck down the stars, sun and moon. With a thunderous boom, that expert from the God Extermination Palace had all his defenses destroyed. His body suffered a crushing blow as he was directly flung through the air. God's hand doesn't refer to single target attacks. Rather, it refers to using God's hand to unleash all sorts of attacks. At this moment, Xiao Lingyue's gaze couldn't leave Qin Wentian's palm. The light was still as bright as ever, exuding a terrifying might.